1, 2, 3, go.
Hey everybody, it's Aaron Banyan.
Timothy Bennett here.
Welcome to B&B Banter Bros.
Our 5th episode.
Numero 5.
And today we decided we're going to
circle back onto film.
Movies, which, spoiler alert, there's going to be a lot of spoilers.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to really pull any punches on like giving away endings.
Oh no. Not to mention, it's one of the easiest things for us to just revert back to anyway, so.
Well, and the other thing is, like, we're going to be talking about movies that are old enough that if you haven't seen them, it's not our fault.
Right? Get cultured.
Right?
Sons of bitches.
Get your life together.
It's one thing I consistently say to Kaylee. She can barely even keep up with, movies 5 years ago.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you need to culture yourself. So
step your game up.
All right. Well, first, Aram, you said that you had, this is like last week, I think, or at least a couple.
I started
podcasts.
watching trailers on Hulu, and I don't know. I was picking out random ones that Hulu had kind of thrown up, like, hey, new movies, and these are all over here.
Like a lot of them, like the Blumhouse stuff or anything.
No, I mean, there's some random like older, like they put like a horror film from 2016 up, things like that. It's, I don't know. I went kind of all over the board. So I mean, I think it's a fun idea to talk about trailers that like seem interesting, and maybe we'll get into the idea of watching the actual movie at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We got I got a couple on here. We can kind of stick to the theme you want to stick to, or I can just do the trailers after the discussion.
Oh, let's do the trailers now, and then we're just gonna go into. So yeah, we'll just dive right into that.
Just dive right in, I guess. The first trailer I watched was called Good Dog. It's Judy Greer, who I will first and foremost always remember her as Carol from Archer. But it's about Judy Greer being like having anxiety and getting a therapy dog, and the therapy dog basically starts killing people that make her anxious. And what really stuck out to me, I mean, it looks more funny than it does anything else, but the best part is fucking Steve Guttenberg is in the movie as her boss.
How old is this film?
I think it's one of the Hulu's just putting out now. I think it's one of the Hulu's like original films, because they're doing like a series of movies that like called In the Dark. So they just releasing a bunch of like horror films, and I think this is one of theirs. So it's Judy Greer is the main star. Let me see if I can find it. But yeah, it looks kind of funny. Like I say, Steve Guttenberg is probably what stuck out the most, and like I really only saw it for like a second.
Yep, there's Greer.
But he's just like, he shakes her at one point. He's just like, calm down. But he's like yelling at her. I don't know. The whole movie seems kind of ridiculous, but
yeah,
I was just stoked that.
Oh, it's Good Boy. Good Boy. Okay.
Oh, Good Boy. Oh,
Good Boy.
I had Good Dog written down. Okay, well that would be why I did it wrong.
And that's why I didn't come up with it. I typed in Good Dog, and it came up with like Marley and Me, and I'm like, well, that's not it. And
he was a good dog,
a dog's
but
purpose, and I'm like, that's definitely not it either.
Right.
So
Steve Guttenberg is decidedly not in that movie.
Right. I think the last time I seen Steve Guttenberg in anything that I can recall was he made a small, quick cameo in Community, where they were.
I just recently started watching Community again, so maybe I'll see it.
But it's like they were trying to find a way to sue Ken Jeong's character. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Senor Chang.
Yeah, Chang. They were trying to find a way to sue Chang because he had gone and made himself popular and become like a celebrity or something like that. And so they were trying to find a way to suing him, saying, hey, if you have any way that he was in this kind of production or something like that had to do with the school first, that they could technically take rights, or I don't know. And he played like this film executive producer guy or some film lawyer, I don't know.
Last thing I saw Steve Guttenberg in was an episode of Law and Order. I can't remember if it was SVU or Criminal Intent. I want to say it was Criminal Intent though. But yeah, that's the last thing I really saw Guttenberg in. Although listening to How Did This Get Made, which is another podcast I listen to, they actually, the newest episode is about a movie called Don't Tell Her It's Me, which is Steve Guttenberg basically is at the beginning, like he's recovering from Hodgkin's lymphoma, so he's bald and like just all sorts of in bad shape, but like I can't do the actual plot of that movie justice. Like if you haven't seen it, it's a good one because it's worth watching.
It's crazy that he's still actually acting, that he's still getting work.
Right.
But for anybody who doesn't know who we're talking about, who Steve Guttenberg is, his most iconic role was definitely back in the 80s was he was in
3 Men and a Baby.
Yep, 3 Men and a Baby with Tom Selleck and
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson. He was also in Short Circuit.
Yeah, which is what I always remember him from.
He's the main guy. He's the main actor. He's the main white guy because you have a robot, and then you have Stephen Fisher.
Fisher Stevens.
There you go. Why do I always say his name backwards?
Fisher Stevens, who is playing basically, he's playing an Indian guy, like a Middle Eastern, but he's white. He's white. Like he's white as you are, Tim.
I mean, he might be Italian type white, maybe. But I don't know. But yeah. And then he was also in Police Academy. He's the main actor that they follow in Police Academy. Which back then
I can't remember what his name is in Police Academy now.
I can't even. But nope, I can't remember. I know that he
Mahoney.
had
That's
Mahoney. I know that he had a huge coke problem back in the 80s.
Who didn't?
It's true.
That seemed like the drug of choice for the 80s.
I mean,
was coke.
I think he got in some trouble, and where he's gotten fired from other potential films because of his coke problems.
Damn.
Back and then. That's pretty bad when you're getting fired for coke in the 80s.
Yeah, dude, you got to have a heavy coke problem at that point.
Yeah, at least you're getting like blacklisted from a handful of this, well-known
No joke.
films.
Damn.
I can't remember which ones, but I read it in something a while ago.
Sure.
God, I can't believe it, I guess. High Spirits is the one I also
High Spirits will always be like a soft spot for me. Like that's one of those movies that Tim and I just fondly remember from our childhood, which is another.
It's great.
It's a goofy comedy movie that he does with Peter O'Toole and I'm trying to remember Liam Neeson is in it.
Yep.
Liam Neeson, probably one of his first major acting gigs, I think.
Yeah, I mean he was
in that movie Crawl. I remember you and I talking about that, but he was like a very like minor character comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember anything earlier than High Spirits, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and then you have.
Beverly D'Angelo is in there. Daryl Hannah.
Yep. Peter
O'Toole. Yep.
No, you said that. Peter.
Yeah.
Gallagher.
Peter Gallagher. Yep. Jennifer Tilly's in it.
Jennifer Tilly. Yep.
Man. Somebody that I told him about that's in that movie that he didn't know at first was Connie Booth, who is from one of my favorite shows, Fawlty Towers, which is a John Cleese joint that I always enjoy. High Spirits, if you ever get a chance, go check that out. That's
if you can find. I mean, you could probably find it now, like on Amazon Prime.
I think it's on Amazon Prime or something like that.
Stuff you probably have to rent it, but
you may also be able to find it on YouTube for all we know.
That's true. It's good. It's some good stuff. It brings back childhood memories.
fond memories.
All right, so
all right,
next trailer. Yeah.
Next trailer is The Disappointments Room. It's a 2016 ghost movie with Kate Beckinsale. The trailer looked pretty interesting because it basically Kate Beckinsale moves with her family to this house, and it's a pretty classic haunted house sort of trope, but there's like a room that she can't unlock, but like she keeps seeing like ghosts and shit around, and then it's like she finally gets it unlocked, and then something happens. Like that's kind of the end of the trailer. But like her daughter makes like some comment of like, don't get sick again. And so like you get the impression Kate Beckinsale has like some problems with probably depression or bipolar disorder or something along those lines. So it looks like, it's playing off the idea that people don't believe she's actually seeing these things. It's just like her mental disorder coming about.
I feel like that's a very overdone thing, but they try to make films like that seem more realistic. Like, oh, I can't believe the ghosts aren't real and whatever. You're just delusional. But you would think that there are at least a handful of people that would be like, oh, I'm on top of this. And I feel like The Conjuring was one of them that did that. These people came to them and went, okay, yeah, we believe what you're saying. There's something here.
Right.
Same with, what's the one with the doll? Annabelle.
Oh, Annabelle?
Yeah.
Well, that's supposed to all be in the same universe, too.
It's the same thing. But, like,
yeah.
those people,
Yeah.
I feel like there should be more of those people.
Well, yeah. Like, not skeptics, but ghost hunters that believe they look for things that could be.
Insidious. That's another one where Insidious.
I think even that one's supposed to be in that same realm.
Is it? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me.
There's
It's
like
all
8 movies all
by,
in the same.
James Wong. I mean, he's
Yeah.
freaking killing it in everything he's touching.
Yeah, he's got like 8 movies where like it's all kind of the same sort of like universe where like it's
crazy.
Yeah.
That guy goes from doing Saw, his first major motion picture, which was a horror film and a very excellent, disturbing, graphic horror film,
for sure,
to doing Aquaman.
Oh fuck! I didn't know he did that.
And he did, I think it's Fast 7. I think he directed that one too. So he's kind of slowly getting away from that horror aspect, because he was considered to be like the next John Carpenter and Wes Craven kind of thing, like the next master of horror. Yeah. And now he's turning into this like
showed
action.
that he can do other stuff.
Oh yeah, and he's just, like I say, he's killing it.
Yeah.
His stuff is so good.
For sure.
I mean, you may not have liked Aquaman, but that dude can just direct. That's all I can say.
Haven't seen Aquaman, so I don't know.
I liked it. I enjoy it, but
I try not to take those movies for anything more than what they are. They're superhero movies. Like if you're looking for, something that's gonna like, blow your mind or anything like that, like, I think you're probably looking in the wrong spot.
Well, let's put it this way. It was, in my opinion, it was much better than the Justice League.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Or even Batman versus Superman.
I haven't seen one of them.
I think that Aquaman was better than both of those, in my opinion. But
right on.
That's my
You're
opinion.
also a Jason Momoa fan. So.
I am.
I am too. Don't get me wrong,
fan.
but like
I like Aquaman.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of like 9 people that do.
Yeah, right? People can hate on him, but people don't understand. He's the equivalent to Superman.
Yeah.
And you know what?
You and I have had this talk.
Yep. And the thing is he doesn't have a weakness because the sun goes away.
Right. Yeah.
So, because Superman's powered by the sun, and yet Aquaman doesn't have that. He doesn't have a weakness like that.
Yeah.
And he's got the same abilities, and underwater he's technically still stronger. Yeah. But I'm not going to get into that.
But that's another episode. Yeah. We'll go into comic books one day, and Tim and I will fall down a whole new rabbit hole. So the next one I watched was for a movie called Ingrid Goes West. And it's
I've heard of that one.
Aubrey Plaza basically starts stalking Elizabeth Olsen. Ice Cube's son is in it. The preview looked fun. Like it looks like a dark comedy. If it's yeah, it definitely has some like dark tones to it. But like there are plenty of points where like you were kind of like chuckling at like what was happening. Some of them probably spots you weren't supposed to. Like there's a spot where like Aubrey Plaza goes to a wedding of somebody and like goes, "Oh, congratulations," and sprays like pepper spray in the bride's eyes or something like that. And like that's like I think in the beginning of the movie. I don't know. It looked funny though. Like it looked like a well done movie, and I think Aubrey Plaza, to be completely honest, is very funny.
I mean, I loved her in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, she's great in Parks and Rec. A lot of the stuff I've seen her in that like she was trying to be comedic, she's done well.
I think she's also in what? What was the name of the film? Safety Not Guaranteed. You ever seen that?
Safety. The name sounds. The title sounds familiar.
Safety Not Guaranteed.
What's it called? Or what's
Safety
it
Not
about?
Guaranteed. It's about a guy who throws. What's his name? Man, I'm looking him up right now. Okay. Oh, Jake Johnson's in it, first of all, which I'm a huge Jake Johnson fan. If you don't know who he is, he was in New Girl. He plays Nick.
Okay. Yeah.
He's in a bunch of stuff. But it's pretty much there's this Mark Duplass. That's who it is.
Oh, from The League.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So he is this guy who puts out like an ad that says, needs, someone, or here, right here, wanted someone to go back in time with me. This is not a joke. It's serious. Take it. So this chick gets pretty much hired. I think she's like a news reporter or journalist that gets hired or gets told to answer this ad, and maybe he's a weirdo, maybe he's whatever. And she kind of falls for him in a soft spot kind of way, and then this entire time you're not sure if it's real or not. And then the way the ending kind of goes, it kind of leaves you into that it was real.
Interesting. Okay.
It was a very, I mean, it's kind of a dry.
Yeah,
film.
I think because he had another movie that he did where it was him and Ray Romano. I'm fucking drawing a blank on what the hell.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it was him and Ray Romano, and I think he gets sick, and him and Ray Romano have to kind of come to grips with.
Yeah,
it's like I think it's called like it's named after a game they play. I just can't remember what the hell it's called.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't remember. But I know what you're talking about. I remember seeing the trailer for that. If you want a really interesting movie to watch, is Creep. You can get it on Netflix and stuff with him in it. So the director of Creep and Creep 2, I got to meet him when I was in school. Because he came, one of my film professors went to college, to film school with him, with the director.
Oh, all right.
And finally got him to come out and kind of do like a Q&A and talk to us and stuff like that. Super nice guy. But he talks about how to do like the success of a low budget film. And he said, obviously having somebody like Mark, as a star helped a lot. But they did it with like $10,000 or $11,000 is all they did this film for.
Oh.
And it's interesting because it's a like found footage style.
Okay.
And it's creepy as fuck. And Mark Duplass is creepy as fuck.
Right.
He's like, you think he's a serial killer. That's kind of how it comes down to.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, he is. But definitely give it a shot. And I think they're coming out with a Creep 3, or at least I think we're talking about wanting to do a Creep 3.
Sure.
So I got to see him right when he did Creep 2.
Okay.
And then he had just released it out, and Netflix had just taken it or bought it. And then he came to our school and talked about it and stuff like that. So it was super cool. But
right on.
Yeah, moving on.
The next one is called Shirley, and it's another Hulu original movie. Basically about this couple who is hired by a guy to, I think they try to get like an apartment or something like that, and like the guy they're renting from asks them to like look after his wife, who's a horror novelist named Shirley something or other. I don't know if she's a real one or not. Like I don't know if it's like based off a real person, but like there is so much shit going on in that trailer.
Yeah.
Like I legit just wrote down Elizabeth Moss is playing Shirley. And if you don't know who Elizabeth Moss is, she's from The Handmaid's Tale. Or if you're like me who didn't watch that, she was Zoe on The West Wing. And so like there is like weird notes of like lesbianism that I don't quite get. Like not that I have a problem with it, but it's definitely in there. Like I don't know if they're like really saying that like that's what's happening or like what's all going on, but like there's that, and then it's like the husband is in on it too, and I don't.
Is this a period piece?
I have not a clue. Like I literally just watched the trailer. I didn't really read anything about the movie, and it looks bonkers. Like just the way it's one of those trailers that seems almost frantic at points. Like so I almost couldn't keep up with it. But yeah, it looks kind of bonkers. Like I say, I wrote down Elizabeth Moss, and then I just went, I don't know what the fuck is happening. Like,
I'm sure a lot of people are gonna hate me, but I'm not too particular on her. She has like I say, I watched her in The West Wing, so like I love The West Wing, so I have a soft spot for her in there. I know she's done other stuff. I haven't seen a ton of it. Well, I just watched Invisible Man.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too bad of a film. I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty dark. It was a new modern take on like a classic.
I honestly like until recently I didn't know they fucking made that movie.
Yeah.
Like
it wasn't too bad. I rented it a couple days ago, like 3 or 4 days ago, and watched it. And I didn't mind the film. I've seen her in a couple things, and
sure.
I just don't think she's anything too impressive. But I have not watched The Handmaid's Tale, which is what like everybody's so bonerific for.
Yeah.
Is her role in that, her performance in that.
And that's based on the book was supposed to be really good too. So I mean that could easily be like the writing is what's gonna do it for her in that one. Like I personally I don't know if she's like that awesome an actress on her own.
Yeah, and see,
I haven't watched her in a ton of stuff.
I've only seen her in a couple things to be honest. So I mean, one of them was she plays Jonah Hill's girlfriend in Take Him to the Greek.
That's one, and I haven't seen the movie, so I didn't really know how big a role she had.
She's just the girlfriend, and she wasn't bad in that. But then again, she was just a small little role. Although there's a threesome scene going on in there with Jonah Hill, Russell Brand, and Elizabeth Moss, and it's quite interesting. pretty much Jonah Hill gets like excluded out.
That seems like something that would happen to Jonah Hill at that point in his life.
But I'm kind of a sucker for that film. I did like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and the fact that it was kind of a spin.
Yeah, it's basically because
he's Snow, which is like not really a main character,
but he's Russell Brand's character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yeah,
so I mean that's the part I remember.
Yeah, but he's not like a main character in that show or in that movie. So like the fact that they made a spin off on just him, but it was good. I liked him, and I liked Sean Combs, like P Diddy. Anybody doesn't know his real name, Puffy. Yep, P Diddy. His role in that is really good. It's funny. He's funny.
Diddy can act when he wants to. Like, I think the problem is he just doesn't want to.
He doesn't need to.
That's very true.
Dude's fucking... He's loaded.
So the next trailer I watched was for a movie called Changeland. With Breckenmeyer and Seth Green. And to me, watching it just looked like a more emotionally charged Without a Paddle.
Yeah, Seth Green wrote this and directed it.
Yep. It just spoke to me as like it's Without a Paddle, only a little more adult.
Yeah, I
not humor wise, but like what they're dealing with wise.
I keep seeing this pop up on.
I say Hulu keeps telling me to watch this.
Yeah,
so I don't know.
maybe it's Hulu, and I've been thinking about watching it, but I haven't done it.
I've watched the trailer once or twice. It's like I say, it just seems like a more adult version. We might try to. Yeah, because like I say, I liked Without a Paddle, and I like Seth Green.
Yeah,
Breckenmeyer is good when he's doing the right thing. I don't know if he's doing the right thing in this one.
I liked him in Rat Race and
yeah.
I like him in a handful.
I read something.
Road Trip.
Road Trip, yeah. I read something the other day where like, oh yeah, Breckenmeyer stole everyone's hearts in Clueless, and then he did a bunch of movies. He was set to be the next like big comedy phenomenon, and then he just fucking dropped off. And it was one of those things where it was like, what happened to Breckenmeyer? I was like, I don't know, man. Like,
I see him a handful of shit still.
He's here and there. Like, he doesn't do anything truly like trailblazing. Like, he never seems to be the lead. He always seems to be a supporting guy. Yeah. Which, I mean, if that's what he's into, like, that's fine. Whatever.
I mean, I liked him in. Most people are probably gonna hate me for this. I really enjoyed Ghost of Girlfriend's Past with Matthew McConaughey.
I watched it once. I don't remember it being terrible.
I enjoy it, but I also like Michael Douglas is in it as like he kind of plays the he plays his like rich uncle, his like suave ladies man rich uncle who died. Plays, and he's playing the ghost.
Marley,
he's playing
Jacob Marley essentially.
But it's a complete. I think the way they did it, just the way that they renditioned that entire film, I enjoyed, and he plays the brother. He plays the little brother who's getting married to Lacey.
I remember that.
Lacey. I can't remember her
Shabert?
last name. Yes.
That's the only Lacey I know as an actress.
She's in like Mean Girls and.
I couldn't tell you what she looks like, but Well, actually, I just saw the cover of another movie that I'm going to talk about. Plus One is that first one up there. So Plus One is like a comedic romance, or otherwise known as a romantic comedy, with Jack Quaid, who is probably more known right now for The Boys. And
he plays
he's
Howie.
Yeah. And then I can't remember the female leads, but I believe she is in that Hulu show Pen 15. Which is about like two girls that go to high school.
It spells penis.
Right. Okay, well, I was trying not to be vulgar, but whatever, dog. But yeah, so she's in it. It actually looks like just a nice, like, it looks like a romantic comedy, and I don't mind romantic comedies, so, like, it seems like it could be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for them.
Yeah.
I'm like a chick like that, though. I like my chick flicks.
Yeah. For sure. Well, I mean, we're both guys that don't mind feeling feelings, so
It's true. That. I don't. No homo.
Right. The next one is The Art of Self-Defense.
Yes.
I haven't watched it yet, but it's Jesse Eisenberg, who basically just starts learning karate, and then, like, I don't know, shit goes sideways so quick for him, it seems. Yeah, it looks like a funny downward spiral is what it looks like.
We've talked about how we kind of have a soft spot for Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys that comes off as like a pompous prick kind of thing. Like you would just think.
Oh, it's his face. He's got that douchey looking face.
But then again, it also did phenomenal for him when he did Social Network, which is a great film.
Yeah.
But I like him, and I just watched Vivarium. No, oh, dude.
I feel like I know that title. I just don't remember it.
It is twisted, but it is fantastic. I enjoyed the shit. I got Kaylee to watch it with me. And it was just one of those things where I saw a trailer, and it's like this dark comedy, thriller, horror thing.
Okay.
And really bizarre, really out there, but just super unique and original. And I liked it a lot. So
interesting.
Give it a shot.
Vivarium?
Yeah, like Vivarium.
Let's see what we can do.
I can't remember who else is in it other than Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah, but yeah, Vivarium, 2019, and I'm not even gonna pronounce Imogen Poots.
I know what you're talking about. That's where they go to like that gated community, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So these two couple are wanting to buy a house.
Yeah. I know what movie you're talking about.
Yep.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen the trailer, watch it. If you haven't seen the movie,
I've seen
just
the
watch
trailer.
it.
I've seen the trailer. I'll watch the.
It was
watch the movie
it was
at some
good.
point.
It was good. Kind of predictable.
Sure.
But the way it was done was super interesting. It was super like appealing, and I would still say it's extremely original.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely good.
I've got like 8 more, but I'm not going to go through all of them because I figure we should probably start wrapping this up and get into the rest of the conversation. But the other 2 I'm going to talk about are Grabbers, which is like a monster movie, essentially. I think it's Irish. And so they figure out like there's these like creatures like attacking people, and they figure out that the best way to do it is to keep them off of you because they drink your blood is to get drunk. It
explains the whole beer and the break glass.
Yeah,
fire
it's literally like
emergency thing.
These 2 cops who figure out it's like on an island in Ireland or something like that, and there's 2 cops. And the best part is at one point they're like, oh, one of the cops, I think it might be her, like she's just visiting or she's leaving, and she's like, oh, it's a welcoming party for me. Like, well, and somebody like in the crowd goes, well, aren't you leaving in like 4 days? And she's like, it's a going away party then, whatever. But it looked pretty funny. I think it just looked kind of funny. The trailer was funny. I laughed.
I'll have to give it a shot.
And then the last one, okay, I'm going to do 2 more. Sorry, because there's one called The Poison Rose, which is John Travolta and Morgan Freeman.
The Poison Rose.
Yeah, it's like John Travolta now.
Ugh.
Like, yeah, and it's like he's like supposed to be like a hard-boiled detective. I just literally wrote next to the title of the movie, everyone looks awful. Like John Travolta looks like
prime.
Travolta looks like dog shit.
At least there's one saving grace, one saving grace I can see, and that's Peter Stormare.
Yep.
And I do like Brendan Fraser a lot, but
Brendan Fraser,
he's definitely not looking the best, but I still like him.
Brendan Fraser is starting to look like Tweedledee and Tweedledum from Alice in Wonderland. Like he's rounding out.
Yeah.
he hasn't said no to a ham sandwich in a while, which I guess, I mean, considering how
he's also gone through a lot of shit over the course of like 5 years, like, between like divorcing and or like a bad breakup and his mom dying, and
I'd probably eat myself.
I don't know.
Eat myself to death.
Yeah,
too.
who knows? Who knows? But
yeah, literally, if you watch the trailer, everyone in that movie looks terrible. Like John Travolta, like, is just super bloated, and like he's supposed to be like a heavy smoker and a drinker and a gambler, so like he just looks like shit the entire time.
Yeah, he's definitely not aged well. Morgan Freeman, I'm amazed that the dude's still alive.
Right. I feel like every movie he's in nowadays, like I swear he's just sitting down. Like
probably because he can't stand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's born in 1937.
Bro, like, give up the ghost. Just retire. You've made enough money. So the last movie we're going to talk about is called My Friend Dahmer. So it's about the early years of Jeffrey Dahmer told by a kid that knew him, and it's based off a graphic novel.
Really?
Yeah, by I can't remember. I feel like the name is like Durf or something like that. I couldn't tell you what the fuck the name was supposed to mean, but yeah, it's based off a graphic novel, and it's Jeffrey Dahmer as a younger guy, like in high school, and it looked intense.
Yeah.
Like, just it made me feel uneasy.
Is it because of the way it was done, or just the
context, just the vibe it gives off makes you feel uneasy, because like it juxtaposes between the kids meeting Jeffrey Dahmer and like becoming friends with him and like having a good time, because like they basically make him the leader of the group, and like they go off and just do goofy shit, and then like all of a sudden like Dahmer's killing animals and like just having like violent like kind of like episodes. Like there's a point where like he's just like wailing a baseball bat against a tree until it snaps, and like so it's juxtaposed between those two things, and then like things with his family going off the rails, like his mother like being weird and crazy, and I think his mother is played by Anne Hesh, who I have not seen act in forever.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so like it's just a really intense movie, or at least it looks it, and it looked really good. So
yeah, I'm definitely interested about a couple of those for sure.
Yeah, some of them are just like they sounded goofy, so like I could put them up there, but
yeah, I'm interested about that Irish one or the
Grabbers.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested about that.
The trailer looks funny, so
yeah, Grabbers. I'll have to check that out. And what was the other one? Ingrid Goes West. I feel like I've seen most of that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a scene where she's like masturbating or something.
Really?
In that film.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, but
it may be a different one.
There was another movie I saw Aubrey Plaza in, and I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but like she befriends this guy whose father is like a serial killer or something like that, or some kind of like criminal. And like there was this weird sort of like moment towards the end where like she basically slept with the dad, even though she was building up this like romantic relationship with the main character, and then the son essentially catches them, and then I think he kills the dad, and then she like makes him kill her. Like she like runs at him and like attacks him, and like he kind of like has a knife already, so he ends up like stabbing her. And I just remember that part of the movie because I was very confused by why that was happening. Like she was obviously very like unstable in the movie, but like I apparently didn't completely grasp what the whole thing was about. So I don't know, and I can't remember the name of the movie. I think I saw it a couple of years ago, so it's lost in the vault.
I don't mind her.
I think she could be very funny.
I do like her, like I said, in Parks and Rec. I love her and Chris Pratt's relationship.
Yeah,
perfect for that relationship.
Oh yeah.
So, I still think that one of the best lines in Parks and Recs was improv by Chris Pratt, where he's like sitting at the computer and he completely improvises this line like when somebody's sick and he just like, I don't know, I can't even remember what he says.
Well, I know he did a couple things like that because like the part where he shows up naked at the door.
Oh yeah,
he actually showed up naked. Yep. Like he wasn't supposed to.
That reaction that Amy Poehler, the scream thing was a real scream. Yep. Yeah, no, he was known for doing that kind of shenanigans shit.
Yeah.
And always breaking shit on set too. I don't. Yeah, I like Chris Pratt
for sure.
So
I do too.
All right, well, so those are the movie trailers, huh?
Yeah,
you'll have to. Should run the list off real quick.
Oh yeah, for sure. So we had Good Boy was the first one with Judy Greer and Steve Guttenberg. Then we had The Disappointments Room with Kate Beckinsale. We have Ingrid Goes West with Aubrey Plaza and Elizabeth Olsen. Shirley with Elizabeth Moss. Changeland with Breckin Meyer and Seth Green. We did The Art of Self-Defense with Jesse Eisenberg. Plus One with Jack Quaid and an actress whose name still escapes me. I do know Ed Begley Jr. is in it, and I thought that was dope. Grabbers was the Irish movie about monsters, and then The Poison Rose with John Travolta and Morgan Freeman. And
where everybody just looks over.
Everybody looks like they should be put out of their misery.
And at this point in their life, they probably should.
And then My Friend Dahmer with I couldn't tell you who the actors are. I know the guy playing Dahmer is like a Disney kid, and that's like his big breakout role from Disney, I think.
What does it say? Anne
Heche is his mom, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, Anne Heche being the lead actress or the big name in that movie is kind of a sad state of affairs at this point. There was a time where like Anne Heche could have drawn some names, but
yeah. I can't think of the movies that I've seen her in, but like the face, I recognize the face. I know. I've seen
she was
her.
in John Q, which probably like one of my favorite Denzel Washington movies. Like, I think she's the reporter.
It's been a long time since I've seen.
But she's pretty prevalent in that one. There's other stuff, but John Q is probably the easiest thing for me to remember her in. Yeah. But she's been in a ton of shit. She had a big thing with like Ellen DeGeneres. Like she and Ellen were like a couple. I'm pretty sure before I think she decided she wasn't gay, and broke up. I don't know how you kind of like. I don't know how you walk that line. Like, and I could be very wrong on what happened, but that seemed to be what I remember. Also, keeping in mind that I didn't give a shit either. So
right. Yeah.
I took whatever fact was thrown at me first and was like, okay.
When it comes to celebrity statuses and like who's dating who and who's marrying who and all that crap, there are very few people I give two fucks about. But there are also several people that like shock the shit out of me on like how successful their marriage has been and is and still is and how long. I mean, they're
Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn are probably the ones that jump to my mind.
Yeah, I mean, and look at Kate Hudson. Like her career is very well on her own. I don't think she had to have her parents who they are to be anywhere where she's at.
Oh, most definitely.
I'm not a huge Kate Hudson fan, but she's solid. She's good.
Yeah.
She has a handful of films I like.
Yeah. And she, I think she's married to the guy from the Black Crowes.
Yeah.
I think that's who she was.
The singer?
I think so.
Oh, shit. What is his name?
Who cares?
It's Black Crowes.
The Black Crowes. Who cares? Like,
well, yeah,
what's his name? Irrelevant.
Right. I wanted to kind of go and talk about horror films. So I had I can't even say recent. I bought this In Search of Darkness DVD. It was a limited edition, Corey Taylor edition. And I'm a huge fan of Corey Taylor. And it's about In Search of Darkness is pretty much like a documentary about horror films. They have a bunch of like things. If you ever go search for like In Search of Darkness and all that, they have a bunch of categories, but mainly they stick to the darker side of films, so horror films.
Yeah.
And I bought this thing last year And
you just watched it yesterday.
Yeah, today. I haven't even finished it. It's so I bought this thing. It took, because it came from England, so it took 4 months to 6 months for me to get it.
You buy in such a way, like you buy regular stuff, but in such an innocuous way that like you bought a DVD you had to wait 4 months for because it came from fucking England.
Well, what happened with the DVD is it was actually got put on back order for a little bit because they had way too many orders apparently that they I don't know, they were like supposed to be 60. They had like 60 orders. That's what the thing said when I bought it. I was like, oh, there's 60 this, sign up now. And I think I bought it like the day that they released that out, and I'm like, well, fuck yeah, I want to see that. And then I get this email saying, oh, because of overabundance of orders, like things are going to be pushed back probably a month. And I guess they sent another email out saying that now they're having manufacturing problems. Pretty much whatever company they were making to make this DVD was having issues.
The computer they were burning the DVDs from like just crashed is what happened.
And so then I finally get it, I think, in like February.
Jesus Christ.
And then I just popped it in like today. So in my mind, I think I would be livid because 10 will get you 20. I'd forgotten I ordered it at that point. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'd open up and be like, oh. I hadn't quite forgotten because they were pretty, consistent about sending emails and updates and everything like that. Now, they may have been like once a month, but they were on top of their game for the most part. So, and I guess the thing that was taking so long was if you ordered a certain amount of time, which I did, they were supposed to make something special for you. And like the credits, like thank you or a shout out. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I haven't finished it yet.
Still waiting.
Right? But that kind of got me into wanting to talk about horrors. And when I dropped you off at home, like, I don't know, one of those times I did.
A couple days back,
we had talked about, maybe talking about movies again and like talking about like a certain type of genre that we like or something like that.
For sure.
And given that I was watching that, I just got so excited. Like I got so immersed into the idea of horror films and realizing how much I really love horror films. And I always have loved them, but like a part of me forgot about that because I don't watch them anymore.
Right.
And I don't know if it's because of the girl that I'm seeing and living with that I can't just pop in a, House or House 2.
Right.
Because she's like, what the fuck are you
watching?
watching?
I turned you on to.
Or, if there's... I have to find that one time, and then I'm like, well, I don't really want to watch that. I want to watch something lighthearted or something.
Right. You gotta be in the mood for it. Yeah.
Right. So, and yeah, I just kind of went into this thing, and I've always had my favorite films and things like that I've enjoyed. But then I was like, the evolution of horror films kind of fascinated with me. And when I was in school, when I was going to school and learning, some, I think it was like, essentially it was like film pop culture or film culture class.
Sure.
There were certain films that I kind of learned that were like important for its time and what they did and kind of thing like that. And they kind of referenced a lot of that stuff that I was already learning in this DVD. And then I kind of went on this whole thing and and I did a bunch of research while I was watching this movie just because I was like, oh my goodness, I kind of just nerded out.
Tim basically didn't pay attention to the DVD in favor of like researching the other movies.
No, I totally did. I was doing both, man. I was keen on this and I was keen on doing all this other stuff. Like, but then again, I also got interrupted several times. I got home. I went to Barnes and Noble.
Parent.
Yeah, exactly. I got home and around like 4:00 from Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
To go see Kaylee and brought the kid with, and it was time for a nap, so I put him down for a nap. And I started that at around that time. And he only slept for maybe about 45 minutes before I had to go and check on him. And then at that same time, Dreads texted me and saying, hey, I just got up a little bit ago.
Right.
And it's like, we should try to figure out the Zoom thing or whatever, And so I did that for about 45 minutes.
Can you imagine being Dreads, like getting up at 4:00 in the afternoon and be like, no, just got up?
No. I don't know what that feels like.
Not
for at least 10 years.
I've gotten to the point where like 8 o'clock is sleeping in for me most days. So
I've gotten pretty lucky lately that I sleep in at least 9, 10 o'clock. But it just depends on the day because I also will get up and then go back to bed with Wesley and take a nap with him.
I've walked it on that.
So that's where I'm at with my sleep. But I hear you. But so I guess to start this off with, like I did a lot of research and stuff, so I'm probably just gonna be spitting a lot of things out.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to see where your film, like your horror film, started. Like, what was like one of the first, as a kid, because it always starts as a kid, because it's one of those things. It's a taboo. You're not supposed to watch this shit when you're a kid, even though they put it on TV.
I didn't have a lot of like. I dare to say monitoring. In that respect, like, especially once I got up into like 7, 8, 9 years old, where like. My mom kind of basically let me, like, she was like, don't watch anything like super or whatever. And then she kind of kept track of it, but like.
There's a man and a woman on top of each other. Don't watch it.
I was like, that came later.
That's every horror film there is. That's how they die.
Okay, quick story about my mom making me super uncomfortable. We watched From Dusk Till Dawn together.
Oh, okay.
And the second they entered the titty twister, my mom was like, there are your boobs. And I was like, Mom!
That's funny.
But as far as like the earliest horror movies I can remember watching, and they still hold like a pretty soft spot in my heart, would be, I was always into the Puppet Master series. I think the first one I saw was Puppet Master 2. And I don't think there was only 1 or 2 at the time. And I think the third one came a little bit later. So I got into those. And then Critters was probably the other one that I was really into. Otherwise, I don't think I was super into like any horror. Like I probably saw them here and there. I think I watched Child's Play or Child's Play 2 once when I was younger. And
Child's Play was one of those that kind of fucked with me when I was a kid. I feel like it was whichever one ended in the factory.
2, because I'm pretty sure that's the one I watched.
That's the one that
where it gets covered in like the melted plastic or whatever. Yeah.
That was the one that I remember watching as a kid. I was probably like 5, 4. I don't know.
Which makes sense because I think I was about 8 when I saw it, so I know I'm 3 years older than you are. So
I remember that kind of gave me nightmares as a kid.
See, you know what so it's weird what fucked with me, what freaked me out. Like I was more unnerved by the video for Unforgiven by Metallica.
Oh, yeah?
For some reason, that video really unnerved me. The video for Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana really unnerved me for some reason. Like, horror movies didn't really do much for me. Like, they didn't scare me. Like, I knew they weren't real. Mm-hmm. So, like, it didn't fuck with me in any shape or form. But like those music videos, like I can remember like watching them and being like, I don't know how to feel about this. Like it makes me feel weird. Yeah. And like cause Heart Shaped Box has a lot of like religious imagery to it, which kind of just didn't make me feel awesome. I mean, I was 6 or 7, I think.
Probably didn't quite comprehend what.
I probably didn't fully comprehend it, and I just like. I remember being terrified at one point watching the video for Unforgiven, because there's a point where, like, if you've never watched the video, in the beginning, this little boy crawls into a hole and then just, like, lives in this, like, abandoned room for no reason. But, like, there's parts where, like, he's aging, and at one point, he's, like, probably in his 50s, and he's got, like, long white hair, and, like, there's legit just one point where, like, he like looks, because it's all from the viewpoint of the hole, and like the guy just like looks at the hole and just like runs at it, and like all of a sudden like his head's kind of like looking around through the hole, and that
like
scared
a crazy person
and that scared the shit out of me. Like it didn't bother me, like especially like towards the end of the video where like he's super old and he dies, that didn't freak me out. But like when that guy like runs at the hole and starts like looking around, freaked me out.
Well, I know at least in the 90s. That kind of style, like that jittery, like when people were freaking out and jittering and like, spazzing out and stuff very rapidly and very disturbingly. Mm-hmm. That was very popular in like 90s stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really remember much of it in the 80s, but then again, they had a whole other thing there.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, like that's the kind of stuff that freaked me out. It didn't like horror movies didn't scare me as a child. Like say, like I watched things like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which
it's a cult classic.
Yeah, it's a cult classic. I watched stuff like that. Like I say, I think I saw Child's Play 2 once and was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't scared of dolls after that. And like I watched it, and I watched like my grandmother was big into Stephen King, so like all the made-for-TV movies. Like I watched The Stand, I watched The Langoliers, I watched It. I watched all those. Did nothing for me. Yeah. Like
I don't know what it was about Child's Play 2 that stuck with me. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I think it was just that time too. It was just that period of time that I felt like it gave me nightmares or it was whatever. And it's probably that all that shimmering around that he did, that little shift in the shadows. I mean, it's this little figure that can hide behind a couch and you wouldn't even know he's there. And
what's really funny is the doll that's based off of I can't remember what it's called in the actual movie, but it was based off
my buddy.
My buddy was the toy it was based off of, and I had one. I didn't at the time that
probably
I watched
stared at the thing going.
Well, I didn't at the time that it was.
Mugging it.
I didn't at the time that I watched the movie, but I remember after the fact, I'm like, yeah, I fucking had one of those. Yeah. What was my mom thinking?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I that's probably the only film I remember being scared of as a kid, like I said, 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, I mean. I couldn't tell you all the ones that I probably watched. I watched such random shit when I was a kid that like it defies description, like what I could get a hold of and what I actually like sat and watched.
Yeah.
The few times I went out to my dad's, like he was a little more like attentive, I guess would be the right way to say it. Like not that like no one paid attention to me, but like they just like assumed that if I was bothered by something, I would fucking say something. Mm-hmm. Like, and if I was watching something that they didn't approve, they just tell me to turn it off.
Yeah.
But like, they were just like, this is a fucking movie. Like, it's not real. Figure it out.
I think as a kid, around that same time I was watching Child Play, I remember I watched a lot of stuff with my mom because it was just me and her. And we watched like Deep Space Nine a lot.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And we watched, like, I remember Addams Family. It was around the times that the first Addams Family came out, and I enjoyed
Raul
that.
Julia and Angelica Houston.
Still, to
Christopher Lloyd.
This day, to me, those are the Addams Family films. Like those
first two.
Yeah, the first two.
The third one is shit.
I don't think I could watch anything else and take it serious enough because those were fantastic.
Yeah. Well, the third one I think had like Daryl Hannah as Morticia and Tim Curry as Gomez. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
God, no.
I think that's called Addams Family Reunion.
And then you have like the original with Sean Astin, who played was it Rudy?
Sean Astin?
Yeah, who played Rudy. His father played Gomez in the old TV show, the black and white.
Okay. I was
TV
so
show.
confused as to where you were going with that. Yeah.
But his father played.
I didn't watch much of the original show. I just know the guy who played Gomez from Night Court. He's on Night Court after, like, I think once season they're in the 4th season, he becomes kind of a recurring character.
Yeah.
Who's just known as Bud. He's like Harry's like mother's husband or boyfriend. Like, oh yeah, I met her in a mental institute. He's like, his catchphrase is, but I'm feeling much better now.
Well, so continuing from that. So that was probably your earliest. Is that's like your first introduction into like.
Yeah, like
into the horror scene.
Puppet Master, and Critters are probably the two.
Those are definitely in the 80s.
that I can definitely recall. Like I say, I watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space, so that's probably another one. But I couldn't tell you a lot of the other ones that stuck out to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, and then there are some that like I wouldn't even think of as a horror movie. Like Critters, I honestly like bounce between considering them a horror movie and just a sci-fi movie.
Well, it's pretty border. It also wasn't. The first film was taken fairly serious, but after that, they did not take it serious at all.
Well, yeah, especially I mean, I feel like 2 was still trying to be serious, but like it was kind of like Evil Dead, where like Evil Dead 1 was super serious, but then when you watch Evil Dead 2, I was like, somebody was having some fun.
Yeah,
like
they were having a little. Yeah, well, so
and I feel like that's the same thing that happened to Critters 2.
Yeah, Mick Garris did Critters 2, and he's kind of considered like one of the masters of horror, but it's not. It's not necessarily because of his directing or anything. I think he started. I don't know. He just seems to be the horror guy that people know. He's nowadays.
It's just volume or like.
I don't really know. I think it's just he's had his hands in so many things over the years that has to do with horror. Kind of like Tom Savini, or however you say his last name, who was so his biggest like acting roles was in like he was in like he played Sex Machine and Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He is huge in the horror scene because he is a master and extraordinaire of makeup artist and and special effects.
Really?
So
okay.
he's done so many things. His hands have been in so many things for the past 40 years. And
really?
He's acted in a handful of things. He was like in Dawn of the Dead. He was in Night of the Living Dead, and he's been in things like that. He was in Lost Boys. He was in. He played Sex Machine, which is the biggest role I remember him in, and I enjoy him in.
Now let's kill that fucking band.
Yep. And that's. But he's I want to say sci-fi all the time. He's a special
effects guy
and a makeup artist, and he is huge in that.
Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that about him.
Yep.
Interesting.
But anyway, yeah. So one of my favorites went really old. So as a child, I was huge into. My mom would take me to the library, and I could rent some movies and stuff like that. And she allowed me to rent the old classic horror films, Universal's Monster Squad.
Yeah.
You know, the top 6. And I watched them all the time, from Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy, you know, the
Creature from the Blue Lagoon. Black Lagoon, not Blue Lagoon. That's an entirely different movie.
Yes, it is. I loved them all. But my favorite was the Phantom of the Opera, or I should say Phantom of the Opera, not the 1945 version, not the 1925 version. Although I remember watching them both, because I remember one was in color and one was not. But I think I enjoyed the 1945 version a lot more as a kid. And the one I didn't like, that I think least favorite, was The Mummy, which I think was one of Boris my mom's. Karloff. Yeah, it was my mom's favorite because she's an archaeologist and all that kind of stuff. But I really enjoyed Dracula. You know, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, still iconic. And that was like the 1930s that Universal took, and they made these iconic kings of horror. Because that was when horror actually became like the monsters became something. It was an intentional thing to be monster movies, because they weren't even called horror; they were called monster flicks.
Yeah,
and
it was all about the monsters.
Yep, and so they just took those classic tales. And Wolfman was also one of my favorites I really enjoyed, but that because I have Porphyria and the tale of Porphyria with vampires and werewolves and all that stuff, which I've told you. That's for another time. I've always enjoyed Wolfman, but now I would say, like, when you're dealing with the beginning of horror films, it would have to be like Nosferatu.
That'd be my first thought.
Oh my goodness! So I watched Nosferatu much later in my life, and it is just phenomenal for a silent film and German expressionism, like at its best. Like, it was crazy good and creepy. And it wasn't until I saw Salem's Lot in 1976 or something when that came out. Stephen King's Salem's Lot. When I saw that, much older as well, because I'm not that old.
Yeah.
They were taking that Nosferatu vampire, and then I started to I started to get this fascination with just the evolution of horror films. And I started when I was in film school. I was learning about this stuff and this stuff and this stuff and this stuff, and the transition of way it went from where things are now. So you had the Monster Squad, right? And then before then, they didn't have a horror thing. Technically, the first horror depicted film was by George Méliès, which is I think he's a French illusionist who he created, he directed or made the famous 1902 Trip to the Moon.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's on Netflix now.
Probably. It's been on for a while.
I think
it's a giant moon that has a little rocket in its eye.
Yeah. That's on Netflix.
That's him. So he was an illusionist and back in the time, and he was a master at lighting. So he had built this entire warehouse with moving mirrors and glass and all this stuff, and that's how he created all the illusions he did for those special effects back in the 1900s.
Interesting.
And he did this one called like The Frolics of the Devil or of Satan, and it wasn't intentionally supposed to be like terrifying, but he had like animated skeletons, he had bats and cauldrons with fog, and then he had the devil dancing around. And it was pretty much a depiction of like of hell, I guess. And that was like the first film to be considered horror because it terrified everybody. And then it went into those Universal completely stole that idea of, oh, you mean we can kind of get away with doing this stuff once they went into the talking films.
Sure.
And that was when the iconic 6 came out, the king of the Monster Squad. And then I love those films so much that I really got into 80s slasher films. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older, right around high school, is when I started watching all these older films, like in the 70s and stuff. So, or even in the 60s, like I had to actually look back to see certain films because I'm like, well, I saw that, and I remember watching that, and I remember watching that. And a lot of these things I remember watching was someone that you had mentioned to me on recently, or at least not that long ago, Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah.
He always had, especially right around Halloween, I think it was on FX or whatever it was, at TNT, maybe it was TNT.
I think it was TNT, yeah.
He always had that right around Halloween, his stretch of horror films that he used to show, like the slasher films or whatever. Because he was he's a film critic, like it totally makes sense of why that's what he did.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about this guy. I thought that he was just this Texan-looking cowboy who
he created a persona.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Looking at him now, I've recently, because he's in that film, he sounds like Dr. Phil and looks like the judge from Nothing But Trouble. Dan Aykroyd's character.
Who I heard once referred to as a melting candle of a man.
It's god-awful. He does not look well. But he's also 67 years old. So
he's allowed to not look well.
I had to point that out.
I remember watching, what was it called on TNT? What was the show
I don't remember. I can't remember.
Look that shit up.
I didn't look. But so I realized that some of that transition and those iconic films really was the influence. The 80s is where you had the biggest cult following of horror films. That's where like just films are coming out left and right. It didn't care if it was B to C to D to A, like listings, like, budget wise, it didn't matter. People were just making them and throwing them out because they enjoyed them. And I was always...
Monster Vision is what it was called.
Monster Vision. Yeah. I was always fascinated with, like, where do these people get these ideas? Or, how do they come up with that? I was always fascinated with those horror films in the 80s, as a kid. And I didn't, obviously since I didn't live in the 80s a lot, I didn't grow up in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s. I was completely feeling like I missed out on this kind of thing, this kind of genre. And I was getting into some of those older classics, and then I fell into Hitchcock. And I was like, he was the first psychological horror guy. And the first film that really fucked with everybody was Psycho.
Yeah.
And that was technically the start of your like psycho serial killer slasher guys like Michael Myers.
Yeah.
That is what you get, that sense of this evil man. And Birds was another one where you had the idea of nature and how nature is just going to...
Nature rose up.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
But he was the psychological master.
Yeah.
And I got so fascinated with some of his stuff. And then when you progress into like the 70s, you started getting like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which Donald Sutherland was in. And then I realized how many movies Donald Sutherland is in.
Jeff Goldblum's in it. Leonard Nimoy. They're all in Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Man, I'd have to...
Jeff Goldblum looking young.
Well, I mean, he would have had to been. He would have probably had to been in his early 20s, if anything.
Yeah. Even Nimoy looked in good shape.
Yeah. But you had like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
A film I didn't watch till much later in life.
Yeah, same here. I didn't watch it until, like I said, I was already a kid. I didn't really understand a lot of it either, but I remember in high school, I went on this whole Invasion of the Body Snatchers like marathon. So I watched the original, like, which was like the 1950s or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe even 60s. It was a black and white one.
Pod People or something like that was it called?
Yeah. And I watched that one, and that was super interesting. But then I watched the one with Donald Sutherland in it, and then I continued to watch them after, and they got worse and worse and worse.
I remember watching the remake or whatever, where it's like on a military base.
Is it the one with Nicole Kidman?
No.
Invasion?
That's the Invasion. I'm thinking it was Forrest Whitaker was in it. What the hell's her name? She's on Burn Notice. I'm going to have to look that bullshit up. But that was like a remake, and it was... I don't know how I felt about it. I watched that one before I watched... before I watched the Donald Sutherland one. And it wasn't... Oh, here it is. No, that's Invasion of the Bunny Snatchers. That's weird. But yeah, it was not... I don't know. It was not great.
I can imagine. Like I said, the black and white one I remember watching.
Oh, this one's just called Body Snatchers. Sorry. Okay. So it's just called Body Snatchers, and it's... I say Forrest Whitaker's in it. Who the fuck else is in this movie? Gabrielle Anwar is the lead actress. Meg Tilly, who the name sounds familiar, but yeah, like Forrest Whitaker's in it. It had a different ending. Like this one was like they escape it's on a military base. So they escape the military.
It.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
So they escape, and then I think they start attacking convoys or something like that. I don't remember. I might be wrong on that one, but
because I think this is the same one that I remember a bathtub scene where this girl is, I think, taking a bath or something, and there's a pod nearby.
Yeah, it's Gabrielle Anwar. It tries to take over, and
she wakes up in the middle of it with these vines coming at her or whatever, and she gets away from it.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yep. I remember that one.
Yeah, that's one where
Forrest Whitaker was in it though.
Yeah, he's it's great because he doesn't get taken over. He knows something's going on, and when they come for him, he blows his own brains out.
Yeah.
He's like, nah, not today.
Yeah, I mean, when you're dealing with the 60s, you had a lot of stuff. So, like I said, I think it was the 50s that the original one was in, and it kind of went to the 70s.
It looks like 56 is the original, and then 78 was the one
with Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
But Hitchcock, to me, the psychological thing, and you also had your religious stuff. So Rosemary's Baby, which is just fucked up.
I didn't know that was Hitchcock.
No. It's in the 60s though.
I was like, what?
So you had a lot of George Romero's The Night of the Living Dead came out though in 68.
Yep.
He was obviously the father of zombie films. Still to this day, it's credited to how zombies came out in film.
For sure.
But like I said, I didn't really get into any of the 60s stuff, and other than Hitchcock.
Sure.
He's the only one, but it's Alfred Hitchcock. Everybody knows who that fucking guy is.
Even if you don't, You probably do.
You know the name at least.
Yeah.
And so I think The Invasions of the Body Snatchers was the first film I really watched that I can recall that was a 70s horror film. And then I realized how many more in the 70s came out. Like, it blew up. There was like almost nothing in the 60s, and then there was almost nothing in the 50s that was really anything to boast about.
Well, there was enough shit going on that people didn't want to be scared.
It's true. They really didn't. And in the 70s, just kind of blew up. And that's when you had, like I said, I made a list. The Wicker Man, The Exorcist with Max von Sydow. And it's great because it's still one of his most iconic roles as the priest. And then you have, Selma Blair? Is that... Blair something.
It's something Blair. Hold on a second. I'll fucking look it up.
As the possessed girl, demon. And that right there was so controversial and so, like, the audience flipped about it. It got such horrible...
Linda Blair.
Horrible reviews. And yet, it was one of the most successful things out there at the time. Because it just touched on things that people were not ready for.
Right.
And I feel like Rosemary's Baby, because it was pretty much the same kind of concept about having a demon possession of some sort. Rosemary Baby was about the devil raping this woman and having her child, or having its child. And then The Exorcist is about a child being possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
And obviously, it just struck a chord in the Christian community.
Well, yeah, for
saying
sure.
it's all blasphemy and this and this and this. But you had The Wicker Man, which then kind of...
See, I never saw the original. I only know the Nicolas Cage one.
Oh, God, it was horrible. The Nicolas Cage one. So Christopher Lee plays in the original, and it's about tradition. It's all it is. It's about tradition, sticking with tradition. So it's about this man who has to come on this island where his daughter and his wife or whatever live, and their society is they need a sacrifice. So they need a sacrifice to the gods that they believe in, or nature or whatever, so they can have a fruitful harvest.
Yeah.
It's tradition. So I thought that was just so fucked up to think about.
Yeah.
But when you get older and you start learning about history and all of its traditions and all the paganistic rituals and all this, I thought it was extremely interesting that movie came out right around the time that The Exorcist came out, and I'm like, oh my God, I think they're trying to say something. I think there's this, I don't know, we need faith kind of help signing. I don't know what it was, or they're just trying to stick it to
It could be any number of things
in some way, because then you have The Omen that came out in the same decade, and The Omen was by far absolutely terrifying because everybody's terrified of being a parent in some shape or form, or has an unnerving thing. But what if your child's the devil,
right,
or the Antichrist?
Yeah,
and that was just more intense to think about as, once again, a child. So you take The Exorcist, and then you go into, well, now the Antichrist is here.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? And he's a child. You can't just kill him.
Right.
But it had some of the most fucked up scenes that I remember watching. And they didn't stop. They had The Omen too. So they made a sequel.
They went to, I think there's a third one.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I think Sam Neill's in one of them.
Yeah. Well, I know they remade The Omen.
No, I think Sam Neill plays like a grown-up Damien.
Yeah.
I think.
I might have to check it out. Halloween came out, so you started getting your first kind of slasher film. Although the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the first of those, the slasher crew,
right?
And because that came out before Halloween, that came Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out in '74, and it had one of the best opening trailer, whatever you want to call it, marketing things there was. And I remember learning this in high school, and I thought it was brilliant. They, in theaters, when they were doing the trailers for this film, it was in complete darkness. They didn't have anything up on the screen. They just had like a door opening and some heavy breathing, and then this person trying to calm themselves. And then all you hear is this chainsaw rev up.
Right.
And that was the trailer. There was no actual image. and you just hear the screaming and this chainsaw roaring, and it's just that Chainsaw Massacre coming to a theater near you.
Nice.
I'm like, that's the most brilliant thing, because I guarantee you that terrified everybody in the theater.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've always been a fan of my slasher films, so that was the beginning of it. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of those fucked up, like the behind the family thing is just so fucking twisted. And I think that that's where I fell in love with that twisted things. I'm like, oh my God, you can do that? You can see these things?
Right.
Because you didn't get that gory or that gruesome until that movie.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And then Halloween was that kind of like, I don't know, that progression into like the masks, what's behind the mask. You know, it's more about like what's behind the mask.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that that was about the time I started falling in love when I watched those films.
Sure.
So then it was in the 80s, you had, Nightmare on Elm Street, and you had
Hellraiser.
Yep, Hellraiser. I loved Hellraiser.
Yep.
Clive Barker. Then you have, Friday the 13th, which was probably the biggest iconic one, right next to Michael Myers. And there's something about the masks that was horrifying, because it could be anybody.
Yeah.
It was that
well, especially in the first Friday the 13th, when it turned out to be the mother.
Yeah, well, because you knew she was just batting up crazy.
Yeah.
But then you didn't see that ending coming, where that girl is sitting on the boat, and then Jason Voorhees actually jumps out of the water.
Right, for sure.
Like, you're like, oh!
Yeah.
And the mother thing was not that intense. When you really broke that down, you're like, well, it's just some crazy bitch that lost her son and lost her mind and blamed teenage sex for it all.
That's true.
But then you have your Jason Voorhees in the next film, when he was actually him. Yeah. That was like completely hyper and vamped up. And everybody was just like, oh, I'm terrified, because he's practically a zombie.
Yeah, this is true.
He's just a resurrected person that shouldn't be that big to begin with. Especially when he's died as a child. How is he this massive meat bag? But when watching those, I fell in love with Nightmare on Elm Street. And Wes Craven has always had some of the best, I think, disturbing films. Like, what I mean by that is he didn't just do all the blood and guts and gruesomeness. He had like the disturbing level of things. Like Nightmare on Elm Street was probably his like goriest kind of thing. Yeah. But if you
he knew how to put shit together like that just looked scary.
Yeah,
like, he didn't.
And if you like look at like some of his first stuff that he did was The Last House on the Left. That's a psychological thing. That's a psychological thriller. And then you have like The Hills That Have Eyes, and that was like, as much as it was kind of like a monster thing, it was still pretty, like, that could have been real. You know, the nuclear,
it wasn't so far out.
No, the mutation from nuclear, war or whatever. Then he came out, with, Nightmare on Elm Street, which just sold me. I've always loved. He was the guy you love to hate, because he's fucking hilarious, and yet he's a pedophile rapist, child rapist that is not afraid to kill children at the same time. So he deserves every little bit of getting what he got.
Oh, yet, for sure.
You find some kind of humor. Also, Johnny Depp's one of his first films was in Nightmare on Elm Street. He's the boy that gets sucked through his bed.
I think Kevin Bacon's first on film thing was
it's an arrow stuck through his neck. Yeah. Yep. It's gruesome. God, I love the effects. So to me, you cannot beat CGI. Like CGI sucks. I hate horror films that have CGI. Right. You have to have that craft. There's nothing better than the makeup and prosthetics and the goo and the blood splatter.
I remember one of the earliest things I remember, like from like Friday the 13th, is the scene where Jason basically picks someone up in a sleeping bag and just starts wailing against a tree with them.
Jason X.
No, it's actually in an earlier. They recreated in Jason X, but it's in an earlier one.
Does he? Well, I mean, in Jason X, that's what I remember the most.
Yeah,
I thought it was fucking hilarious.
Like, one of the first ones. He One of the first big ones when he's still at Camp Crystal Lake, but he's walking around in the mask and the rags. Like,
it's a ridiculous concept, but it worked.
Yeah,
it totally worked. It was entertaining.
Well, I mean, it was once again, it was one of those things where it was like you knew it was a movie, so you didn't question it.
Yep.
Like nowadays, it's like people like go, "Oh, where's the realism? Why do you want it to be real? It's a fucking movie."
Yeah, it's like the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Yep.
How can you take that serious?
It's,
the name alone is just enough for you to go, really?
right.
My tomatoes are gonna attack me.
The fact that they made a second one is even better.
Yeah, John Carpenter has always been considered one of the masters of horror for directing because he's done a lot of things that have been very iconic, like The Thing. The Thing was still fantastic.
That I remember watching as a young person, and that was pretty. That actually, I think, probably, I guess, would be one that scared me. Was the idea of The Thing. For some reason, that one terrified me.
That like glob monster thing that just infuses with other fleshy things, and it's just so fucked up.
Yeah, I think it was like the scene where they're testing the blood, and like the one guy basically just like bursts into the creature, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it had some really fucked up animatronics.
Oh, and then when that guy's head becomes separated from his body, and it turns into a little spider thing.
He's got little claws, and yes, that's actually the one I was just thinking. That was fucked up. Yep. John Carpenter's, even The Fog wasn't too bad for what it was.
Yeah.
Because I think it's that unknown thing where it's just a fog. Why are you so scared? But you don't know what's in the fog, and that's a perfect example of why you should be afraid of the fog, because there's fucking dead pirates in there.
Right.
So that was one of those films. But the remake, I'm a fan of Tom Welling because I like Smallville. But that was god awful. God awful.
Everybody gets one.
Ugh. That's true. But The Thing was really cool. He also did Prince of Darkness, which is
that's a dope flick. It's the only other movie I've ever seen. Actually, no, there's two movies I've seen that guy, the Asian kid. He was in Big Trouble in Little China, Prince of Darkness, and
which is another John Carpenter film.
And he was in Warriors of Virtue.
So it's not with the kangaroos.
Yeah. Okay. He's the chef that the kid gets to. The kid gets to know. But yeah, he's in that movie. That's like the only 3 movies I've ever seen him in. They made a second Warriors of Virtue, by the way, and it was heartbreaking. For having watched the first one and loved it, the second one is heartbreaking because they basically make the kangaroos into humans and then proceed to tell a terrible story.
Oh god.
Yeah, so don't watch it. Watch the first one and just rewatch it if you need to watch it. Like you need to watch another Warriors of Virtue movie because it's the only one worth a shit.
I should watch that. I haven't seen that for ages.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I watched it too. But yeah, I remember, and I don't know his actual name. I just always remember him as Wang from Big Trouble in Little China. So every time I'm like, hey, it's Wang.
Yeah. I love Big Trouble in Little China. I have like a list. There's like at least 2 or 3 films that I say that every person should always watch.
Oh yeah.
Like every boy and girl as a child should watch these films, and Big Trouble in Little China is one of them because it's a straight up adventure fantasy movie. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's badass.
Did you know originally it was supposed to be set in the Old West?
I did not.
It was. It was supposed to be set in the Old West. Same cast and everything, same basic plot, but it was supposed to be Old West.
Either way, it doesn't matter. It'd probably be just as badass in the West.
For sure.
But it is one of those, it's just an adventure.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that they have a beholder too.
Yeah.
It made me happy, being a big D&D nerd. But then Princess Bride.
Of course.
Another one.
Yep.
Because once again, it has everything you want in a film.
Oh, Peter Falk says it in the beginning.
Yep.
Like he's got fencing, fighting, revenge, true love, miracles.
Oh, is this going to be one of those kissing books?
It's just a kissing book.
Right. But it is one of the best films of all time, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure.
It's one of at least my top favorite film.
The book is not vastly different, but there are parts where you're like, that's not in the book rather than the movie.
It is different. Well, and the writer,
William Goldman.
Yep.
Well, he translated it.
Well, yeah, he was asked to do the script.
Yeah.
And he wanted. I think he said no several times, but oh god, I just forgot his name. The director,
Rob Reiner.
Yes, Rob Reiner was like, no, we need this to happen. Like, I guess he went on this whole like broke down, passionate crying about how much this book meant to him and how he needs to do it. And even though I think William Goldman was like not a fan of the movie, I think it's just because it was his baby. It was his. It was one of the books that made him successful, and it was one of his masterpieces. And he never wrote anything quite as good.
There's a sequel to The Princess Bride, like the book,
probably
called Buttercup's Daughter or something like that.
I know I've read the book and it was okay.
There are bits in the book that like I wish had been able to be put in the movie, but it really just wasn't like doable.
I will say the characters are quite different.
Yes,
and that's kind of the thing that I had trouble because I read the book much later.
Yeah, me too.
Like I don't know, I have it somewhere on here.
I was copies. I think I was out of high school when I read it.
Oh, I read it probably like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah,
I have the 25th anniversary edition.
Fezzik is Turkish for one thing, not Romanian. I mean, not that matters, but like it blends in somewhere. Vizzini is supposed to be hobbled and have a hunch, and I mean they delved more into like I thought especially the fight scene between Inigo and Wesley, when Inigo is basically remembering his fencing teachers telling him certain things. I thought that was interesting, and I would have loved to have heard that in the movie. Obviously, like I say, just not economical, probably.
Right. Well, either way, though, the movie you can't touch.
Well, right.
Like, that is one of those films, I swear to God, if they make a reboot or whatever, I will want to light something on fire.
Well, I mean, that's one of those things. Carrie Elwes came out, like, because they were talking about it. And Carrie Elwes came out and was just like, no, don't do that. And it's like, and Carrie Elwes doesn't really get involved in things from what I can tell.
No, I've read his book As You Wish.
Yeah,
and it was super good.
I've read the book, but I know certain behind the scenes shit, like the fact that like the part where Fezzik catches Buttercup at the end, like she had to be lowered down on wires because Andre the Giant's back was so terrible he couldn't even hold her up.
Yep, he had trouble standing with the horses.
Yeah. The fact that he had to hold Wallace Shawn so that he could climb. It's like petting him like a child.
A lot of the stories in that book, he talks about like going out to the pub with Andre and like he's just a massive celebrity to everybody and like and he'd drink a cask of beer or whatever and he'd have like 6 chickens and like it's just like it's expensive to feed this guy.
Right. Yeah.
But everybody loved him, and he loved everybody. It's like the only thing sometimes he would ask people, to just kind of leave him be and at a certain time, but people respect him. And I don't know. It's a really interesting book, especially learning a little bit more about Andre the Giant. Cause,
he's supposed to be one of the most gentle human beings you'd ever met.
Yeah, right. He was a gentle giant for sure. Yep.
Which have you ever seen My Giant with Billy Crystal?
I have.
That was based off of Billy Crystal meeting Andre the Giant.
Yep. I remember.
Great movie.
It is. It's super good.
Ending is sad as shit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I remember crying at that.
Yeah, me too.
It was one of those touchy. Anyway,
it was like moving back on.
Going back to the horror. But yeah, John Carpenter. He's definitely one of those that he had a lot of things that I remember watching as a kid, and I would have really never known. Like Village of the Damned was actually a remake.
The one with Kirstie Alley, or that was. The Kirstie Alley and Christopher Reeve one, I think it was in the 90s. Never mind.
I don't remember that one.
That was Village of the Damned. Yeah, it was kind of an odd movie.
This is probably the one that he was that you're talking about with him in it. But because 1990s, there's an original that this was made
I knew the one with Christopher Reeve was a remake.
Yeah, so this is probably the one that you're thinking. I haven't seen it since I was a kid. Actually, until I saw the cover.
Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Fucking twisted, but that
Christopher Reeve for that horse fucked him up.
Right. But then it comes down to one of my favorite films by him is In the Mouth of Madness.
Okay.
With Sam Neill.
Now, is it in the Mouth of Madness or in the Mountains of Madness? Because I think the story is in the Mountains of Madness, isn't it?
Yep, but it's not. It's inspired, and there's some references of sorts that kind of lean into like that's what they were going for.
Okay.
But it's almost like an interpretation of that book into this modern today's thing. But I've always loved In the Mouth of Madness. First of all, I'm a huge Sam Neill fan.
Yeah.
Event Horizon was just, I think, such a twisted fuck up movie as well. And the fact that he's the bad guy, I'm like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
He doesn't start out as the bad guy.
No,
he becomes the bad guy at the end. Yeah,
he becomes, but like it's a fucked up movie.
Yeah.
So fucking dark, twisted. Once again, I have a fascination with the concept of hell, which In the Mouth of Madness is kind of where they're alluring to. Is at the end of the movie, there's this giant, like, door. Like there's this massive, like, carved, like door, and that's supposed to be, I guess, like the entrance of hell, I guess.
Huh.
But I've always liked that movie.
I was looking at 80s movies that I remember watching, well, I mean, at least that are categorized as horror movies. Some of them I don't fucking believe are horror movies. Like, they have the Little Shop of Horrors on here and shit like that.
I mean, I can see why it would be considered, but it's more of a comedy.
Right. Poltergeist was one that I watched.
And that was one that was up there too. Especially because of they're bringing it to the suburbs. Like, anybody could have been living on a ancient Indian burial ground. Yeah. That shit could have happened to us.
Right. Creepshow.
I remember, Stephen King was starred in that.
He was in one of the, because it's a series of stories, but he's in one of them. He's the one where
he wrote it.
It's a Stephen King joke. Yeah.
But he was the first guy with the meteor shit.
Yep. He ends up with all the grass on him, and he's like, oh, it just itches.
So was Joe Hill. His son started it. So it was like the dad that kind of wraps around at the end. The kid is reading that's Joe Hill.
Oh, interesting. Yep. The Fly, I guess, technically is a horror movie.
Which I see it. Yep.
I remember the Jeff Goldblum one. I actually think I watched the Vincent Price one first.
I think I've seen it too.
I've seen all three of them. I've seen the remake and then the sequel to the remake, and I've seen the original. I think I watched the original first.
Yeah, I think I remember the original as well with Vincent.
And then I watched the Jeff Goldblum one, and then I remember watching the Eric Stoltz one and being thoroughly annoyed at the movie. I think just rehashing the same shit.
You can't really beat the first one. Yeah, especially the effects on that one.
Yeah, the Jeff Goldblum one.
Yeah. Jesus, that's the kind of shit I'm talking about, though. That's what I always loved about those films. Any 80s horror. And then you get shit like Ghoulies.
I forgot about Ghoulies. Is great.
Or Chud.
Chud, yep. See, I didn't... Okay, so I didn't, as a child, watch the first one. I saw the second one.
Yeah. Of Chud?
Yeah. So there's
How many do they have?
I don't think there's more than two, to be completely honest. But I remember watching the second one.
Don't they have 4 Ghoulies?
Oh, I think there's 5 or 6 Ghoulies. Okay. But I think the original incarnation of the Ghoulies was done after the third one.
Made me not want to ever take a shit.
Right.
For a while. No joke, God, there's something in there.
Nowadays, I can remember movies like Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, yeah.
From the 80s. I didn't watch Cujo, but Cujo was a big thing.
To be honest, I still, to this day, have never watched Cujo. I know it's about, I understand the concept, and I've never read the book either, but I have never watched it.
Yeah. But we talked about Prince of Darkness.
The thing is that I have a handful of these films we've talked about. This is one that I've always enjoyed, The Gate.
The Gate, I was actually just going to point that one out. That's Stephen Dorff's first movie, I believe.
Yeah. The second one, I actually didn't mind either. I
didn't even see the second one.
I mean, it wasn't as good as the first one, but the second one kind of picked up with the house demolished and stuff. And there's that little demon creature that's this other guy.
Imp or whatever?
Yeah, that second one steals that that creature and finds out, oh, it'll like grant wishes or whatever. So it
Interesting.
starts making all these wishes and shit, but then he finds out every wish has like an expiration date and it turns to shit. Like literally.
I just remember.
It literally turns to
I just
shit.
remember the kid having like an eye in his hand and him jabbing the piece of glass
That's
in the
the
eye.
first one.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's like I say. I never saw the second one, so but that's the big part I remember from the gate,
Mm-hmm.
and that part kind of was like, oh shit.
Right. I enjoyed that one.
Did you ever watch Videodrome?
So I don't think I've ever actually watched it, but they were just talking about that in that documentary.
It's a very odd movie.
Mm-hmm. This guy who essentially
It's
has
James Woods, and like he essentially like it's like they're trying to control people through like media, and like he somehow gets like in with these other people that are trying to like stop the first people, but like
a cult.
yeah,
kinda
like he
thing.
ends up with like basically like the ability to insert a VHS
like
into his chest.
Pretty much just a vagina looking.
Yeah, it's essentially for a video cassette. They
Yeah.
put it in like that's how they control him, and like at one point he sticks his hand in there and like comes out with like a gun
that's infused.
It's pretty buck wild. I was very confused by it, and I owned the VHS, so like I tried watching it a couple times when I was in high school, and I couldn't fucking understand what was happening.
They talked about that because what they were like, that film was essentially they were just trying to say like between analog going into digital, like the way that the society and our technology is rising up from analog to digital, that pretty soon that's what's going to happen is they're going to be able to have their hands in the government especially or whatever is going to have their hands in everybody's life.
Sure.
And that's kind of like their take on that. And I was like, oh, it makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
It totally, I mean, it looks like a crap film, but almost all these films we talk about are crap films, and I love them.
It's not so much, I mean, I don't think it's crap. It just, if I remember right, it seems disjointed.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't seem cohesive in any way.
What I mean by crap is just, like, they're all that lower budget films. It's amazing that some of these films were able to get made. Like, where did you get the funding to even come up with something like this?
Well, like, the fact that, like, James Woods is the lead actor in Videodrome, I was like, isn't James Woods, like, a big actor at that point? Like,
yeah.
I think he was on the rise, at least. I think he'd been doing stuff, like, steadily for a while.
Yeah.
But the last movie I'll say about the 80s, at least, is The Howling.
Yep. I was just about to mention that,
The Howling was probably the other one that I remember. Not scary to me, but, like, I remember it. I remember feeling oddly, like...
She stole your...
Tim's asshole cat just ruined my... or just took my fucking hoodie thing.
the drawstring that goes around like a sweat
God,
shirt.
cats are dicks.
Hood, and my cat just stole it from his jacket, like completely ripped it out.
I've had this thing for like 5 days. Damn it. Oh, well, whatever. It's not like I use them anyway. But yeah, no, The Howling, I feel like they made werewolves like not scary, but they made them like weird and like dirty.
What I liked about like The Howling especially, they really emphasized on the transformation, but they admitted to stealing the transformation idea from American Werewolf in London. They stole that same kind of concept, but they were obviously going to do it.
From the 80s.
Oh yeah, but they were going to do something a little different. Now, I think that the big thing about Howling was the character, not the actor, but the character himself, like embraced that change.
Sure.
And I think that's a little bit different, and that's why they were like focused on how it was done. It was he knew he was a monster and he wanted to be a monster.
Right.
And I think that's where they tried to make him a little bit different. I think that looked a little more badass. But if you ever watch American Werewolf in London, and that transformation scene is so fucking intense. It's also like 5 to 10 minutes long, but it's so fucking intense. And some of the shit that they did was just amazing. I mean, Howling, the director completely admitted of stealing that kind of concept.
Sure.
Because it's very similar.
I would.
Yeah, Howling was interesting.
They just progressively got A, weirder, and B, just grosser almost. Like
they were going for that shock and awe.
Well, I mean,
kind of.
because I remember the second one, and like there was a lot of like sexual stuff going on, and it was like it didn't, and it, whatever, like it was what it is what it is, but like it didn't scream like horror movie to me. And I remember like again, I listened to How Did This Get Made, and they went over like the plot subpoints of this thing and like the evolution of werewolves and things like that. It was like, what the fuck is happening in this movie?
That was something else that you have, like Nosferatu that started the vampire trend, but it was Dracula that really set that modernized tone. And then you have, Bram Stoker's book was really big, and so they wanted to go more of that dark romantic side of things. So they kind of, I mean, that whole, the vampire thing just cliched out, and it was still to this day, it's still one of the biggest things being made in Hollywood. Yeah. People love their vampire stuff. Right. And werewolves are kind of secondary. Yeah. But that's why they kind of try to make them cats and dogs kind of concept. Right. But werewolves, the transformation of that from the Wolfman to anything else you see is completely changed. Yeah. Vampires kind of haven't. They pretty much went from like the Nosferatu guy to the the Bela Lugosi style. And then werewolves, you went from Wolfman to wolf creature. Yeah. And they just keep getting more bizarre and more. See, that's the one thing I didn't like about Underworld. I hated the Underworld lichens. I like the movie for the most part. I think they're okay. Like, they're entertaining. They're action-packed. They're like gothic style kind of thing. They're taking
shot very well.
Yeah, they're taking that whole vampire and masquerade thing. But I hated the CGI. Yeah. I hated CGI so much. And that was the other thing about American Werewolf in London is when they came out with American Werewolf in Paris. I loved that film. First of all, the main guy, I can't remember his name.
I just remember like Dead Man on Campus. Yeah.
He was also Van Wilder. He was the newspaper journalist teacher guy. Yep. I can't remember his name. I see him in some things every once in a while. Not anymore, I should say. But he was the main guy in American Werewolf in Paris. And I hated that CGI. Everything about that film I enjoyed except for the way that they did CGI transformation. Yeah. And it's just, you can't beat the aesthetics, the special effects and makeup that they did for everything else. It's weird because CGI is more expensive than to hire people to do that, but people want this like flawless precision on their stuff nowadays.
They think that somehow like doing that makes it more not believable, but like more like a better product. Yeah. It's just it's not.
Let's spend, $100,000 on just CGI or fucking $100 million if you're Avatar. Right. And we'll just call it good. And the thing is a lot of CGI companies have to put their like stamp on it, so they won't make it as good as they can, right? Because they need to offset so they can go, hey, you need to know that this is CGI, right? Otherwise, there are people out there that can make things pretty fucking flawless, but they want to put their stamp on it so that they get more business when they go, oh, that movie Avatar looks badass. What CGI company they use? Let's use them, kind of thing. I don't know. I think that's the whole old 80s horror films, because that was the peak, that was the highest time you had all these coming out. It's so much fun. They were like the kid. It's like the kid in me. You just get so excited about that stuff. And I still love them. I still like watching them. I can't get enough of them. Like, I'll every once in a while I just go and I find those horror films that like those random things. I'm like, I don't know if I should watch this. This looks like it's gonna be crap. And most of the time it's shit. Yeah, don't care. Sure. I enjoy this shit.
Yeah, most definitely.
So, but that's my whole thing on like, I guess the 80s things. You also had some of those kind of the actors like, Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell when they made Evil Dead. That was such a low budget. I think it was like it was super, super low budget, like $25,000. and they just went into a cabin somewhere in backwoods of Tennessee.
Isn't that Sam Raimi's car?
Yeah, it's almost every single film that Sam Raimi has done has featured his car.
Oh yeah.
So Evil Dead to even Spider-Man, it's the same car that Uncle Ben's driving.
Oh.
Yep, that's Sam Raimi's car.
Interesting.
Yep, but Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi and even the Coen brothers and a couple other people were all in the same apartment together in college, and they just shared an apartment. And then they used to do short films, and then that's when Bruce Campbell, before he became the Chin,
Right.
that's how he got started, and that's why he was in Evil
Interesting.
Dead. And then it became one of the most iconic films ever. But the greatest thing about that film was it was a film taken serious.
Right.
And some of the shit that they did for that kind of budget was just phenomenal. The illusions that they were able to pull, and it's still to this day, I think a lot of those special effects artists and out there for films that were probably like, how'd you do that? Like,
Right.
that's phenomenal. And then they go into, like you said,
it got super campy,
yeah.
and then you got Army of Darkness, which was the third installment essentially.
Yeah.
And that one was obviously like
It was fun.
it was fun, yeah.
And you saw more Bruce Campbell's comedy side, his comedic.
Yeah. Bruce Campbell could show that he could do something other than be scared,
Right.
which is what he did a lot of the first movie. He was just scared a lot.
Which it should be.
Well, exactly. I'm not saying he was wrong to be scared. I'm just saying like that's all he did, and people like. I don't know. It gave him a chance to do something a little different. Like, and then of course, like the second movie when he like has to chop off his own hand and stuff like that. Like that's whatever. Like I said, I didn't care for the second one.
No.
Just wasn't like it wasn't Army of Darkness and it wasn't Evil Dead. Like it was in between, and I was like, pick a side.
They needed a gap.
Yeah. That's all it did. It bridged a gap, and I didn't care for it.
I don't know did Sam Raimi do the other two?
I have no idea.
I just know he did the first one. I know that Bruce Campbell I've always enjoyed in a lot of things, and I do like Ash versus
Evil Dead.
Yeah, I do enjoy that series. I thought it was a pretty fun, entertaining. But that's the Army of Darkness side of things. Not quite the Evil Dead. Although I did think that the remake was pretty well done. The remake of Evil Dead.
I haven't seen it.
It was pretty fucking intense. I thought they did a pretty good job. I really do feel like it wasn't, crap or wasn't blasphemy or anything. It was,
Well, according to Wikipedia, Sam Raimi directed Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
Which is subtitled Dead by Dawn.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot of shit that he did that you're just like, oh my God, how is this a thing? It's so cheesy. I mean, he did Hercules and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose.
The Xena
I love
Warrior
Hercules.
Princess. Why? So did I. But look at him. You can't take that serious.
That's true. That's very true.
Kevin Sorbo and his 5 heart attacks.
Right. No one remembers his sidekick, Yolis.
Right. I always thought he looked like Lars from Metallica.
Yeah. A little bit, at least.
A little bit. It's probably the same height, same build, and kind of facial feature. Probably
height and build for sure. Facial wise, I don't know if he looks like Lars. Lars has got a bigger chin.
Maybe. It sounds very similar.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, I like Hercules, and I never got into Xena as much.
I watched it just because it was on after Hercules, so that's really all I did.
I didn't mind Xena.
Yeah,
if it was on.
fine.
I watched it. Yeah, but I enjoyed Hercules.
Hercules was the one I watched.
I was gonna say something about Evil. Oh, there was an exception because we talked about Evil Dead, and then my mind went to Cabin in the Woods. So, Cabin in the Woods, absolutely love that film. Joss Whedon, though, brilliant guy anyway.
Yeah.
But that is one of those films where he completely stole the Evil Dead cabin.
Yeah.
I mean, it was his intentions to take that Evil Dead cabin scene, that feel.
Well, it's iconic to make it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because it looks exactly like it's the same kind of story plot line, except there's a little bit further. It's a lot more in depth. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more further going on. But talk about a serious, non-serious horror film.
Right.
I don't quite call it comedy, but it's almost like a satire.
Sure.
It's like a satirical horror film. I love that film, but that's one of the few times I think that you can get away with doing CGI.
Sure. Yeah.
And they didn't do CGI for all of it. There's definitely a lot of makeup done in that film. I just wish it got better reviews, because the ending of that, we're talking about endings that seem more like real, like more like, oh, that's not what's gonna happen, not live happily. That's an ending that I find excellent. They didn't win. Simple as that. They lost. Game over. So
game over, man.
Yep. And I think that's one of those endings that Cabin in the Woods would always stick with me, because it's the same thing I said. I like those non-conventional endings.
Right. Yeah.
If you had a modern horror film, like you can think of like 2000s or so, what would you say is some of your favorites? Because I think that would probably be mine right there.
See, I didn't watch a lot of like the mainstream ones. Like I watched like indie shit for a while. Not to sound hipstery, but like I watched like indie stuff for a while, like stuff that was low budget. I remember I was actually just thinking of one that I watched that I remember being very interesting, because it was called Calabas or something. And basically it was one of those ones where like a bunch of people got like invited to stay in this like cabin, or not cabin, but like an apartment or something like that. Let me see if I can find the fucking overview of this thing, because 1999 was when it was made.
Yes, quite a few years ago.
Yeah, and so wait a minute. Apparently I remember this wrong.
Not the right name, not the right...
No, it's the right name, and I think it's the right movie. I'm missing chunks of it. I mean, granted,
making shit up.
It's 21 years ago, so I'm allowed to not remember everything. Oh, sorry. So I read like the first line. So basically it opens up with a severely wounded girl who can only utter the word Calabas. Anyway, so it cut to a few days prior. So it's basically about this girl named Kira, or I assume Kira, who's taking part in an experimental film. And the film will have several different people living together for 3 months while the cameras record their interactions. Her artwork, which is inspired by a creepy faceless entity, disturb her new housemates. And eventually, I'm not going to go into detail on it, but eventually housemates all start dying.
No.
And like through like weird traps. It's like Home Alone, only
horror.
Yeah. And so it's like all these people die and she lives, and you're like, oh, that's fucked up. I wonder who that killer was. And then like she's like in the bathroom looking in the mirror, and the fucking killer is right next to her. Like it's a part of her own mind. So she was the killer the entire time.
Oh. So it reminds me of High Tension. You ever seen High Tension?
I haven't, but you and I have talked about it.
High Tension it was 2003. I was in high school.
That sounds about right, because I think it came right around the time
I was working at the movie theater, so it was 2002 or 2003.
Sure.
When it came out. High Tension was a French horror film. It was quite gruesome, quite disturbing, but badass, and had a badass twist. You pretty much find out that this entire time that this chick has been running away from this bad guy. Like, I'll tell you how fucked up it is real quick. Is at the beginning of the film, there's a dude that's giving himself a blowjob, fellatio, with a dismembered head. And then he throws the head out the window.
Starts it off, on a high note, I guess.
And he kind of has like this truck, kind of like Jeepers Creepers truck.
Oh, word. Here, I'm going to show you the cover for Calabas, just because it's so misleading to know what the movie's about, and to see that cover. Why would you put two and two together?
It kind of looks like a werewolf.
Yeah, it's a very strange cover, and the movie, like I say, it's not exactly a high budget film. Yeah, it's kind of like Saw mixed with Home Alone. That's how I feel about it.
It's probably not far off, though.
I'm trying to think of other fucking movies I watched. Me and a buddy of mine, for a little while were watching, like, we would go to like Hollywood Video. This is how old the story is. We would go to Hollywood Video and rent terrible fucking movies.
Were you kind of like the ones where, I guess maybe you weren't because you kind of probably got away with it, but I always had to do it with like, are these the ones that my parents wouldn't allow, but my friends' parents would allow us?
See, we were doing it at like, we were living together. So like we were in our 20s doing this. Another one that we did that we both really enjoyed actually was this movie called Slashers, which basically takes, and basically what it is, it's like the Running Man. Kind of like it. Basically, it's a game show.
Okay.
Where like people have to survive these serial killers, essentially, that like are trying to kill them.
Also sounds like Rob Zombie's.
Kind of, yeah.
13.
But it's much lower budget. And then at one point you find out one of the guys that's a contestant wants to be one of the killers. So like, and then at one point I can't remember why, but he like fails killing somebody, and then he's like, it's like, I know you guys like, I think he says harakiri, which I'm not sure is the proper term. I think seppuku is actually the proper one. But
so when you like stab yourself,
and that's what he does. He just like he disembowels himself, and that's like how he dies. It was actually a really fun movie to watch.
Yep.
Again, pretty low budget.
Yeah. Sometimes those are the fun ones. Like Killer Clowns in Outer Space.
I can tell you
terribly low budget, but it was fantastic.
I gotta see if I can find
classic.
There is a movie. I gotta see if I can find the right cover. But it's like it's a zombie movie. Very, very low budget. Basically starts out with like this guy, I can't remember if he gets sick. I think he gets sick, and like he leaves the house, and then he's walking next to the water reservoir for some strange reason, and then he like gets sick, and then he just like keels over and falls in.
Kind of reminds me of Cabin Fever a little bit.
Yeah, kind of. Except these are like legit zombies. I say legit, but there's like actual zombies versus, just necrotizing fasciitis.
Say that again.
Necrotizing fasciitis. But
the fact that you know that is
that's what that is.
Yeah.
Oh well, they say it in the second one.
You know how long ago I've seen that? Probably when it came out.
I watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy and shit like that, so I remember that stuff. But anyway, so cut to like essentially the guy, his disease starts poisoning the water for this town.
Of course.
So
why wouldn't it?
Right. And so like his daughter at one point is like, so he's got a daughter, and this is a very side note, but this is the part where like my buddy and I were like, we can't watch this anymore. So like he leaves and infects the water, but like there's another point where this guy shows up to the house and goes downstairs, and there's the daughter, a zombie, eating the dad who should have been floating in the water. And
so
that's not even the weird part of the scene.
Yeah.
Because the weirder part of the scene is that she's wearing like a short dress, and so the guy, instead of going, hey, why is she eating him, he goes basically and just raw dogs her.
What?
And like while he's doing it, he's having these weird flashes where like all of a sudden he's bleeding from the eyes and stuff, and like it was weird. And then it gets even more bonkers because she just turns around, like doesn't stand up. She just turns around like on her knees to a very fake, obviously prosthetic penis that is probably one of the worst like prosthetics I've ever seen, and then just takes a big old bite out of it.
Well, yeah.
And that's how he becomes a zombie. She bites his dick off.
Goodness.
And like I say, this is the point in the movie where my friend and I were like, what the hell are we watching? Turn this off now. I can't remember what the fuck it's called now. I want to say it's like Dead Life or something along those lines. But yeah, and then that was one of those ones where like I re-rented it because I was like, later on I was like, I gotta give this like just a real chance. I gotta see it all the way through just to see if it's, you know, just to see where it's at. And oh, there it is. It's Dead Life 2. Dead Life 2 Necro Devils was the name of the movie. I didn't even know it was a part 2.
Wow. So you watched the part 2?
Oh no, apparently no. There is a part 1. It's either part 1 or part 2. I'm pretty sure it's part 1. But the main character at the end doesn't make it. Like he just ends up a zombie with everybody else. He ends up in this barn, and like people are like, I don't know. It's a pile of garbage, really, and it
kind of sounds like it's not worth.
It's not, but at the same time, it was like kind of would be the way I'd say it. Like it shouldn't have been. Like I shouldn't have wasted my time on it, but I had to just to make sure I like really gave it a shot.
So I've got a couple films while you've been talking that I've been thinking about, and because they're films that I've watched probably over the course of at least 5 years or so that I've enjoyed. I think that you should watch that you probably haven't seen. Mm-hmm. And if you have, that's awesome.
Right.
I feel like everybody else should go watch them. And I think 2 of these at least are foreign films.
Okay.
But they were super good. And one of them is Aramentary.
Okay.
Don't really know. I think it's a Spanish film or no. I don't know. It's foreign, but it was very interesting. It was quite entertaining.
Okay.
It was one of those, it's a fantasy horror is what they call it, but it wasn't taken too serious. And they say a quite little village is thrown into turmoil upon disturbing a reclusive and feared blacksmith rumored to be in the league with the devil. So pretty much this devil captures this demon. Yeah. Or I mean, this blacksmith. Sorry, that didn't make any sense. This blacksmith captures this demon.
Yeah.
Cages him up in this cage for.
I watched the preview for it. I think I had it on my Netflix queue.
It's good, and it takes a different turn too, towards the end of the film.
Is it subtitled? Because I'm pretty sure that's why I didn't watch it at the time.
Because it's foreign. I
think I just didn't have it in me to watch subtitles at that point. But I remember looking, and that looks really interesting.
Oh yeah, it was super good. I quite enjoyed it. Yeah. Like it was fun, entertaining, and I think the visual styles of it, kind of fascinated me as well. The other one that I watched was Apostle, and that was on Netflix too. Super good, definitely dark.
Is that the one with Michael Sheen?
Yes.
Yeah, that is very good.
It's dark and it's good.
The ending was interesting.
Yes, it was very interesting.
Have you seen The Black Coat's Daughter?
No.
That's not a bad horror movie. It's got Emma Roberts in it. It's a fairly new movie.
Yeah. The other film that I watched, that me and Devin, when we were living together, we watched this film and we were just blown away on how good it really was. And we watched this film purely out of the star review back when Netflix had star reviews. Mm-hmm. It had 4.5 stars, I think. And we were out of 5, we're like, it looks pretty fucking cheesy. How does it get 4.5 stars? And it's called A Christmas Horror Story. William Shatner is in it. And he plays like this radio DJ guy.
Okay.
And it's about like 3 different tales, like Christmas tales. And they all kind of
may have seen it.
Possibly. It's 2015 is when it came out. And
I'm thinking of Strange Imports or whatever.
Rare Exports.
Rare Exports.
That's
Strange
actually over
Imports.
here as well. I have that up on here too because I love that.
That one
film.
I've seen for sure.
Yep, I thought that was fucking tastic, and that's Finnish. That's a Finland film. Super good. I'll get into that in a minute. But A Christmas Horror Story, and it's about like 3 different stories that happen to be on Christmas, and they do all intertwine. But the ending to this freaking film sold it for me. Like the story itself was okay. It was entertaining. Kept going.
Right.
The last battle is between Christmas and Krampus.
Oh, interesting.
And that takes a twist. And I did not see that coming. Me and Devin were both like jaw dropped, like, what? And it's hard to do with me, at least. It's hard to catch me off guard, especially when you just throw like a twist like that, like a whole fucking wrench to my face. Super good though, and I suggest watching it.
Okay.
The other was the Babadook.
I've heard good things about it. I haven't watched it, but I've heard good things about it.
Creepy. It's really creepy. It's Australian, I believe.
A kid story, right?
I don't know. I have no idea if it's like the real story or anything.
Well, I mean, it's about like a story. Like the movie's about a story.
Yeah. And pretty much that this little girl, like believes or is telling her mom about this creature, this thing with a top hat or whatever it is, and she doesn't believe her until something happens. It was super creepy. It was actually very well done as well. Definitely creepy. Like not horrifying by any means. It's more suspenseful.
Okay.
But definitely there are some scenes in there just creepy the fuck out. And then the other film, which is what you were talking about, was
Rare Exports.
Rare Exports. I'm so happy you said it.
Yeah, that one was good. I remember Rare Exports.
Is that something we watched?
I might have watched it with you.
Because I stumbled upon it, and I've seen it a handful of times. So Rare Exports is about a family, like a reindeer family.
Reindeer farmers.
Reindeer farmers, yeah. Ranchers, whatever you want to call them, in like Lapland, Finland, or something where technically that's where Santa's supposed to be. And there's this giant mountain, and there's these Americans.
Yeah.
It's the only time they speak English in it is the Americans speak English, because they're the bad guys. And they pretty much are like mining something in this mountain, and then they stumble upon this sleigh.
Right.
And this reindeer family, which is, you're pretty much following around this kid, kind of stumbles upon all this shit. And next thing you know, there's like these creepy old, half-naked, weird, decrepit-looking motherfuckers that start popping up everywhere, and you find out that they're like supposed to be little elves. Yeah. And then you find out that this entire story is about Krampus.
Yeah.
The evil version of Santa Claus. But it was super good. It was well done. It was kind of like, it was a fun, because it says it's adventure fantasy horror, and I agree. Yeah. It was like a little fun kind of thing. It wasn't taken too serious, but I enjoyed the shit out of it. Those are a few like random films that over the years that I remember that they've always stuck with me.
Yeah, The Black Coat's Daughter is the only one that really pops out at me. That like you, I take that back. Have you watched Suspiria?
The original or the remake?
Either one. I watched the remake just recently. It was kind of fucked up.
Yeah. I didn't finish it. I couldn't finish it. I just didn't like it.
The ending was buck.
Well, it's because it's about witches.
Yeah.
The original was just as twisted, and the remake was probably just as twisted. I hadn't seen the original. I just know about it.
I've seen some of the original. I don't think I've watched the whole thing.
I had to do some of it when I was studying.
I feel like that's it's in a trilogy, isn't it? Like
I don't fucking know. We just talked about the experimental side of that film and how it was very, very out there.
Yeah, I think it's a trilogy because I think the third one has Dario Argento, who made the movies. Daughter Asia Argento is in the third one. I think it's called The Mother of Tears or something. Fucking look it up. But yeah, that's one that I remember, and it was very, very, very off-putting. I'm trying to see if it's in a fucking trilogy, because I feel like I feel like Dario Argento wrote it like to be a set. I just can't remember.
Yeah, I watched.
Oh, here, subsequent films.
I watched the remake, and I watched probably just a little over half of it. I couldn't really remember when I stopped, but I just couldn't get it. It's a little too like out there and disorientating for me. Like it was just, I don't know. It was just it's not my taste. It's almost too artsy.
Right. Well, I think Argento's shit was in general, from what I can remember. But so it's supposed to be the first of it. Suspiria is the first of a trilogy of films known as, or referred to as, the Three Mothers. The trilogy centers around three witches, or mothers of sorrow, who unleash evil from three locations in the world. So Suspiria is the mother of sighs in wherever they're at. I guess he did a movie called Inferno in 1980. That was about the mother of darkness in New York City. And the final one was the mother of tears. That was done in Rome. And that's the one that had his daughter in it. I, for some reason, remember the fact that was made. But yeah, I remember Suspiria being kind of weird and off-putting. My buddy tried to get me into the original, and I was just like, nah, I don't think so. It just was hard to it was hard to follow, for one thing, and just a real pain in my ass.
Well, you kind of talked about like a trilogy, and my mind went to, and we talked like artistic trilogy. Have you ever heard of Lars von Trier?
Yeah.
So super artsy guy, but he has like 3 films that are kind of considered a trilogy.
Sure.
And they're like the Dark Trilogy. I can't really remember the actual term, but it's a depressed, like he was dealing with depression and stuff, I guess. And this is stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a
Melancholia?
Yep. And then the Antichrist, or
I think it's just Antichrist.
And then the Nymphomanias are supposed to be all about, like, I guess, I don't know.
I feel like I may have heard of Nymphomania in passing. I think I tried to watch Antichrist, and it was just...
It is fucked. Out of all of his films, I would say that Melancholia was probably his most successful, right after, like, the one that featured Bjork, which was Dancing, or Breaking the Waves, I think. It's Breaking the Waves, Dancer in the Dark. Dancer in the Dark was his big success because it had Bjork in it.
Okay.
But Melancholia had Kiefer Sutherland, and it had Kirsten Dunst.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It also had Alexander Skarsgård.
Okay.
A short blip of him. And his father was in Nymphomania. And those are about sex addiction.
Yeah.
And then Melancholia is about depression. About the end of the world coming.
Right.
And being depressed about it. Or not even about it. It's just being depressed when you know the end of the world's coming. It's like, how can you be depressed? Right. When we're all going to die anyway. It was super artistic, super good. But my favorite was the Antichrist. Right. With William Dafoe. Fucking twisted. There's some shit in there that just disturbed me beyond all means. Oh. And one of them, in particular, is when his wife, who's just going bat-nut crazy, like they're out in the middle of the woods, literally out in like nowhere, in this cabin, this like really primitive cabin, and she just starts to go psycho. And there's a scene where she like hits him in the dick with like a weight and like breaks it, and then like jerks him off until he comes blood.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
That's fucked up.
And you see it all. You're just watching. You're like, what the fuck? William Dafoe goes through some shit in that. Yeah. Very artistic, very symbolic. Analyzing that film was something harsh. I can tell you. But that's a tough film to watch.
I bet.
I don't cringe in a lot, but there are definitely scenes in that I'm like, whew, that's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
I don't know why you made me think of it, but there's this movie. So it's another horror movie called Lovely Molly. It was a 2012 horror movie that I watched on Netflix at one point, I think. And It's about these newlyweds who, you're reading it too. I mean, it's about two newlyweds, and basically, I think the wife is like a recovering addict or something like that, or has some issues, and somehow like there's like demons essentially are like causing issues. Like there's one point where like she's caught on camera basically getting pushed up against the wall and having her pants pulled down, and like there's no one behind her. Like it's literally it's like security cam footage of her just getting assaulted that way.
By a ghost of
but
some
yeah,
sort.
but there's just literally nobody behind her, and she slowly goes off the deep end. But people are like, thinking that like she's slipping back into old habits and things like that. And then like she starts to go real weird, and like there's this part where like her husband who like left comes back, and like he's down in the basement, and like he finds like he finds blood dripping from like the basement ceiling, and all of a sudden he like pokes at something, and like a dead deer carcass falls out, and she's like, no, don't touch it, and then like kind of like holds onto it, and it's
I feel like, is that in the trailer by chance? Because that
it might be.
That
I don't know.
sounds very familiar.
It's super fucked up. And then
Unless
like
you told me about it before.
she proceeds to like she kills a few people towards the end, and then at the end she's just like naked on the floor crying, and then she stands up, walks out of the house, and this is the shot that really like stuck with me because it was very strange, but like she walks into the darkness, and as she hits the darkness, you see the demon lean out of the darkness and like hug her and pull her. Like he doesn't even grab her; he just hugs her and pulls her back in.
Fucking twisted.
And it's like there's this weird fascination with like horse heads throughout the movie that you don't really get till you see the demon, and then it's like, oh, I get it.
That kind of reminds me of like The Ritual. Did you ever watch that? About these friends that go backpacking or hiking through the woods and like.
In my queue, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh shit! Do I spoil it for you then?
It's fine. No one's ever spoiled a movie for me, and I've been like, damn, I was hoping to see the ending.
Well, so the ending of this was kind of bizarre, but I liked the ending. I liked the direction that they went. In fact, that made me super excited because it was kind of a slower paced film. You find out that these friends like have some issues. I don't even remember what the issues were, but you just find out there's some issues between these friends, and they're like trying to resolve it by going hiking. I don't know. Maybe they're separating. They're doing something. I don't know. I can't remember. But they end up going through the woods, and they end up shit starts happening. They start hearing things and seeing things, and then they come upon like this little village that's in the middle of the woods, and they're very like isolated, and these people just kind of disrespect these people. And the kind of people who look like, well, if they're living out here, they must have values of a certain order and some kind of tradition that goes beyond what we find in our own civilization, in the modern world, as we call it.
Right.
And they end up getting sacrificed to to a Norse god.
Okay.
And or entity of some sort. I can't remember though the actual figure, but it has horns, and then hands like as horns, and then it's this giant creature. If you look it up or you watch it, you'll see it. But that was one of those films that kind of caught me by surprise. And I thought it was, because I didn't think it was going to go that route. And I definitely like films that surprise me. That's for sure.
Right. I'm trying to think. There's a movie that I'm trying to find.
Quick. You ever watch David Cronenberg stuff?
It's entirely possible I have. I couldn't tell you if I have or not. So you'd have to tell me the movie.
Super fucking weird guy. Well, yeah, The Fly. Actually, The Fly was David Cronenberg. That was one of his films. But Scanners is the one I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
With Michael Ironside. Yep. Some of the... I've been wanting to get the Criterion edition for a while, and I just never bought it because it's, it's fucking
Sure.
$50.
Yeah.
But it's one of those films where it's just fucking weird, super weird. But I always enjoyed that film, and something that the Search of Darkness film I was watching upstairs, they brought that up, and they keep talking about Michael Ironside and how well he sold that look and stuff that he does, and how just creepy it is. But the explosion when he blows that dude's head up, and how.
I don't think I've ever actually watched Scanners, but I know the scene.
Yeah, he blows this dude's head up. That was always one of my favorite scenes, and they were talking about that, and Corey Taylor was talking about how he would watch it frame by frame just to watch how his head explode and how gruesome and detailed that was.
Yeah.
But Scanners, David Cronenberg, he's a weird fucking guy. Weird freaking Canadian.
So I know I talked about Puppet Master, but so the people that made Puppet Master, it's called Full Moon Entertainment is the name of the production company. Mm-hmm. So they've done a bunch of like random horror movies. Like I said, they did all the Puppet Master movies. I think there's like 7 or 8 by now. They keep making them. They get worse and worse every time.
Of course.
But they did Demonic Toys was another one.
Toy Soldier?
No, not Toy Soldiers. Demonic Toys was one.
Is that the name of it?
Yeah, so there's like 1, 2 or 3 of them. There was a movie that I always get confused with Scanners, like title-wise, called Trancers. Which
I think I know which one.
And I don't remember the original one very well, but the second one I remember watching. It has Helen Hunt in it. Has to do with time travel, among other things. But like it's interesting time travel where like you don't exactly travel back in time. They just put your consciousness into your like the body of like your relative at that point, like your ancestor, like. And it's not going back super far, but they go back like 50 or 60 years, so like, whatever.
It's a young Helen Hunt.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's baby Helen Hunt at that point.
Art LaFleur.
Is that? He also does another set of movies for Full Moon Entertainment called Doll Man, where he basically plays a cop who is like 5 inches tall. And then proceeded to do a movie called Doll Man versus Demonic Toys.
Oh, really?
It's Full Moon Entertainment just basically was just making movies. Just give us an idea, we'll fucking run with it.
Oh, it says Doll Man was a comic book.
Was it?
So, but there's Doll Man 1991.
Yeah. It's the same guy. Art LaFleur, I'm pretty sure, did the same, was Doll Man. But yeah, so that was one I was...
Versus Demonic Toys, Sam.
I remember Full Moon Entertainment very fondly because they made all sorts of bonkers movies like that. They also had a series of vampire movies called Subspecies. And I'm not exactly certain why they were called Subspecies. It was a vampire movie. They made like 3 or 4 of them. But
and this one doesn't quite look familiar. The Subspecies.
Yeah, they're you'll have to look them up because they're all pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
But for some reason you made me think when you were talking about what was the movie we were just in, The Ritual?
Yeah.
I was thinking of a movie called The Shrine, which is a movie with her name is Cindy Sampson. She played Lisa on Supernatural.
Aaron Ashmore's in it too.
Yeah. That's a pretty jacked up movie. I think she dies at the end, I'm pretty sure. I'm sorry if I ruined it for anybody, but I'm pretty
Spoilers,
sure she dies.
We told her.
That's true. We did warn you.
There's The Shrine, and then you were telling me, or I was telling you about The Ritual, you were telling me about this. There's a recent film that came out, Midsummer.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet.
Interesting.
It's on Prime, so I know I can watch it.
It was. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It's a little bit more psychological,
Sure.
but it's pretty much about old tradition.
Yeah.
It's about this commune in the middle of, someplace in Norway,
Right.
and they do things a certain way. So, and they hold on to that, and they're pretty much old traditions. So, old Viking traditions, and it's considered like a horror, and I can see why, but it wasn't bad. I don't know.
I've heard good. Anybody that said anything about the movie said it was good.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can't say I didn't. And it seems like it was received well.
Yeah. No, it was super good.
Was that a Blumhouse movie?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Word.
It also reminded me of Raw. Have you seen Raw? Like RAW, Raw.
I know what movie you're talking
French
about. Yeah,
film.
yeah, about the girl that becomes a cannibal.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. It's
I said there are a few things that cringed me, and that movie particularly had several scenes that just cringed me.
okay.
But it was super good. It was super fucked up, but super good. And it's all about a girl going to veterinarian school who's a vegetarian. And during the beginning of her freshman year, her sister's already in the school, and it's like a family tradition to go to this school. So her parents went to this school and stuff like that. And the girl is going through a freshman hazing, and she gets fed like raw rabbit
Oh, word.
or something like that. And apparently that's where it started. And then it goes crazy in a whole other direction of cannibalism. Like she one of the craziest scenes is her sister's trying to help her like shave down in that area because like she's gonna go on this date or I don't know, something like that. And her sister gets like a pair of scissors or whatever and is gonna start trimming or do something, and she like kicks her and she cuts her finger off. And the sister passes out.
Dude.
So the other sister, the one that we're talking about, the main character, grabs her finger, goes into the bathroom, gnaws on it like it's a goddamn chicken wing. Her sister wakes up and catches her.
Oh, yeah.
And pretty much doesn't really do anything about it.
What do you do about that?
But the ending was pretty cool. The ending, to me, it was such a small, subtle thing to just top it off.
Really?
And you find out that like the girls go home and they're sitting at home, and you find out like that their mother has that condition.
Oh, word?
Yep. And the father like lifts up his shirts and there's this bite marks everywhere.
Damn.
So I'm like, wow, okay. So they're pretty much saying that cannibalism is it's a disease. It's a like hereditary disease, and
that's fucked up.
Oh man, Orphan. You ever see that?
No. Funny story though. Somebody was talking to me about like, oh, I heard this really fucked up story, and they legit gave me the synopsis for Orphan, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a movie. And they're like, really? I was like, who told you that? They're like, oh, I was reading it online. I was like, that's a movie.
Oh, yeah, it's a movie.
They're like, really? I was like, yeah, that's not real. Like, what's wrong with you?
It's a movie. It was stupid. I remember sitting in theaters watching it and totally called it out. Like, first probably, I don't know, 20 minutes of the film. It wasn't that hard to piece that together. Case 39. You ever seen that?
David Caruso?
I don't know. It's got
no, I'm thinking
Renee Zellweger and Bradley Cooper.
I'm thinking of an entirely different movie. I'll talk to you about that movie after you talk to me about this one, because Case 39 sounds familiar.
Case 39 was one of those films, like, going into it. First of all, I'm not a Renee Zellweger fan at all.
Right.
But I don't mind Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
But it took a demonic change. So it's pretty much about this young girl who, like, I think gets turned into an orphan. Like, her house burns down or something like that from her foster parents or real parents.
Sure.
I don't know. And this caseworker,
Yeah.
who's supposed to be Renee Zellweger, I haven't seen this movie since it came out. So 2009. So it's been
Sure.
over 10 years, 11 years since I've seen it. But I remember watching it in theaters, and she takes the girl in kind of as a foster person while she works on her case, and then things start to slowly turn supernatural, and then you find out that this girl's like a demon. She's like,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
possessed by a demon, or she is a demon. I don't know. And overtaken by a demon. But one of the scenes I remember is like there's a car that gets like, she tries to get rid of this girl. She leaves her in the back of like a taxi or something, or a car, and pushes her over a river. And then there's just this clawed hand that's in the back of the window.
Damn.
And I was like, oh, okay.
So session 9 is, it's not even, I don't even feel like it's that much of a horror movie, but it gets pretty psychological.
Okay.
Supposed to say like weird shit starts happening. David Caruso's in it.
Yep.
Weird shit starts. I can't. It's been so long since I've seen the movie, so like
I
probably
can't
not
take
gonna
this
do it
dude
justice.
serious without his sunglasses.
Yeah. But basically, like, one guy keeps listening to these different like. So there's an asbestos cleaning crew that go to clean out this old asylum, and one guy finds all these tapes, and he starts listening to him. Is basically listening to this guy talk about like why he killed his family or something like that. But like, essentially, like as the movie goes, like you stop seeing characters. None of them specifically die.
They just kind of disappear.
They don't even disappear. They just stop being referenced to. Like they stop paying attention to them.
Let me guess, you find out that he's the one.
Not the guy listening to the tapes. Like one of the other guys is killing everybody.
Oh.
And like the thing that like you hear, like you see him kill the rest of his crew. It's like the guy that runs the crew is the one killing everybody. He kills everybody, and then like, they're talking, like there's this part where they talk about, oh, what happened to your leg? And he's kind of like this weird burn on his leg. And so like the last thing you see is like the outside of the guy's house, and like him, like you can hear him kill his wife, and like his wife burns him with like some hot water or something like that, and then you hear a baby crying.
Oh shit.
And then the baby stops crying, and that's the end of the movie. Like, and that, like, this is all voiced over by the last tape in the series of tapes that the guy was listening to, which is session 9. So basically, like, it's, I can't tell if it's ghost or demonic possession or something else entirely, but like, I don't know. It's a fucked up movie. It is worth watching. I watched it on IFC, which was the first place I ever saw it. Going back to zombie movies for a minute. Have you seen the movie Contracted?
I don't think so.
So basically, Contracted is about this girl who essentially feels like, I think she basically thinks she gets an STD. But like more and more stuff starts happening, and eventually towards the end, like she becomes a zombie at the very end of the movie. Like,
Interesting.
but like it's all about like her like getting sicker and sicker, and her not understanding what's going on, like trying to figure it out. And yeah, she just it's an interesting take on zombie movies. They made a second one that picks up right where the first one left off. I don't believe I don't know if it's not worth watching, but I don't think it was nearly as well like thought out as the first one was.
Kind of reminds me of I can't remember the name of it, but it has Christina Ricci and Liam Neeson. When Liam Neeson is he's a mortician
or something. Yeah.
who speaks to the dead, so you think. And Christina Ricci is supposed to be dead. I just remember she was naked through like the entire film because she's supposed to be dead. And you don't really know if she's dead or not, or if he's convinced her that she's dead. It was really bizarre.
Fucking 40.
Really?
Yeah.
I enjoyed. So I think that is it John Carpenter? Did no.
He did vampires.
Which I have.
Yeah.
Which it's whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Oh shit, no, I can't remember.
You talking about Cursed?
Yes. That was Wes Craven who did Cursed.
No, I got it here. Hold on a second.
But yeah, that's the one. I enjoy it because Jesse Eisenberg is in it.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first few films I first saw him in, and I enjoyed that.
Him, Joshua Jackson.
Which I don't give two fucks about.
I always remember him from
Dawson Creek.
I remember he's Mighty Ducks for me.
Yeah.
But
I gotta take this.
I think the movie Tim was talking about was called Afterlife, with Christina Ricci, Liam Neeson, and Justin Long of all people, which is about hold on, we'll look it up. Elliot Deacon owns a funeral parlor and talks softly to the corpses he prepares for burial. Not creepy at all. Middle school teacher Anna Taylor attends the funeral of her piano teacher where she meets Elliot. That night, Anna argues with her boyfriend Paul at a restaurant. She drives off in a state of distress and has a traffic accident. She awakens on an exam table in the funeral parlor to find the funeral director, Elliot, cutting off her clothes and telling her she has died. He tells Anna he has a gift and that he can hear the dead. Elliot has a collection of photographs of corpses whom he has helped make the transition. Elliot injects Anna regularly with a fictional drug called hydronium bromide to relax the muscles and keep rigor mortis from setting in. This movie sounds fucked up.
It was kind of boring, to be honest. There really wasn't anything to it, but
Really?
yeah, I think I watched it because I saw it was Liam Neeson, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting role for him.
Justin Long's in it too.
Yeah, he is.
He's the boyfriend.
Yep, he's the boyfriend. He's the one that thinks that there's something wrong. The other thing I like
he's
Justin.
Right.
And he's I like Justin Long. I don't think there's a fucking thing I haven't seen him in that I haven't liked.
Yeah.
Everything from, like, I loved him in Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah.
Which was, like, his first film.
Yeah? Huh.
One of them. I don't, may not have been his very first, but it was at least one of the first breakout roles that he had.
Yeah. I just remember from Dodgeball better.
And see, that was a couple years later.
Was it? Oh.
Yeah, but Dodgeball, yep.
Sure.
He was in Idiocracy. He
it's been a while since I've seen that movie. I forget.
His small little roles is the parts I enjoy. Yeah, I like Justin Long. But Jeepers Creepers is another one. I like the mythos behind that.
Yeah.
They came up with a third one that was supposed to explain a lot about,
I think they're making another one.
like, a fourth one.
Yeah.
Well, I know they made a third one. It was not like the other two.
Right.
The first two had a higher budget. This third one looked like it was almost a fan base.
Yeah,
It was
I
just
think they're
little
working
bit
on a
lower.
fourth one.
Oh, fuck. But I've always liked the Creeper. Oh, yeah. Jeepers Creepers 4. I've always liked the Creeper.
Yeah.
There's just a mystery. You don't know really anything about this fucking thing.
I always like the ending because the song that plays, Jeepers Creepers, where'd you get those peepers? And that's the thing that's missing out of Justin Long's head is his eyes.
Yep.
I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, Jeepers Creepers 3 is the one that they tried to...
No one likes.
Yeah, they tried to explain a little bit more about the Creeper.
Sure.
The first one, super good.
Yeah.
I thought it was badass. It was creepy.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the second one wasn't too bad. It
was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. It wasn't too bad. You do get a little bit more story too, especially because the dad from the first one, that his child gets taken away in the field, he comes back and now he's the one hunting.
Yep.
So I thought that was kind of cool that they definitely. But I just want to know more about this fucking creature. Like
but that's audience retention.
Oh my god, I know. But from 2001 to what's the new one gonna come out? To probably to 21. So the third one came out in 2017. So it's a long fucking time to wait for some shit. Some
it's
answers.
Almost as long as waiting for my goddamn book. Sorry.
Did you order a book?
No, I'm waiting for
20
that
years ago.
I'm waiting for my goddamn third book in the King Killer
Oh,
Chronicles.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. A little butthurt about that one.
Just a little bit.
Rightfully so. I think what I like about the Jeepers Creepers guy, though, is he's humanoid bat figure.
Yeah.
But, like, his body parts, he can't die because he essentially just regenerates. He just takes another body part and it grows it back.
Yeah.
I think that's what I think is kind of cool. So he could...
part salamander.
Right. He could have... I don't know. He could live for thousands and thousands of years. So...
Yeah.
Fucking wicked looking, too.
Oh, for sure.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Candyman?
No, because I forgot they were making one. Is Tony Todd the Candyman?
No.
Well, then why the fuck even bother?
Right?
Wait, no, I take that back. I did see it.
Oops.
Yeah, I did see it. Why the fuck you even bother with this bullshit?
I don't know if I want to see it or not. I haven't really been able to make a decision if it's something I want to check out.
Chadwick Boseman? No, that's not him. What am I thinking about?
No, I can't remember. I don't know his name, but it says Tony Todd is in it as the Candyman.
You fucking better be. Like, you can't have Candyman without having Tony Todd in it.
The problem, though, is that the trailers kind of give the whole thing away and say that this guy, this Anthony McCoy character, is turning into the Candyman.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. Ugh.
I don't really know how I feel about it. It's supposed to come out September 25th. I definitely like my horror films.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really tough though because there are I'm not a big fan of like the paranormal activity shit. I'm not even a big fan of The Conjuring or Insidious was okay.
Yeah. I've seen Paranormal Activity. It was fine.
I just don't.
Found footage, security cam footage. It's not.
There are only a couple found footage films that I don't mind. One of them was Cloverfield.
Yep.
But come on, that was a pretty unique thing. Found footage for a monster flick like that.
Yeah.
And then they went and they continued the universe and went quite drastic too.
Yeah.
In that universe. And then Blair Witch. I think the Blair Witch is one of the only ones that successfully.
The first one.
Yeah, the only one as far as I'm concerned, because that was terrifying when it came out.
I believe it.
It was one of those things where you're like, "What the fuck is going on?" But it's all that shaky camera shit. You can't ever get a good look at anything.
Right.
I remember when you're like towards the end when they're in the basement, all of a sudden there's that dude that's just standing in the corner. Like you just get creeped out because why is he standing in the fucking corner in the basement of this house? Like,
right.
But that found footage thing, I feel like the Blair Witch did it very well or successfully well.
Well, they were the first ones to really do it, weren't they?
Yeah, as far as I can recall.
I think they were the ones that started that bullshit.
And then Cloverfield, I haven't really found any other films that I've seen like that have stuck with me or been worth it. There might be a couple, but I can't tell you right now. I don't like the Blair Witch either. I thought it was stupid, but I understood it. I know what they're going for.
For sure.
But I didn't mind Cloverfield. I enjoyed Cloverfield.
See, I never watched Cloverfield. I don't know. I just didn't get into it.
Yeah.
I'm also a Godzilla purist, so like, I was like, if it's not Godzilla, it doesn't work.
Right. Well, the like mystery behind this creature was what kind of sold it. Was they went through all this shit and you don't even really get an answer.
Right.
All you know is it didn't die.
Yeah.
And then they made a second one, which you're like, what? This has nothing to do with the first one. And then you have the third one, which is in space, and it's like, what? What is this nonsense? Like, but it's supposed to tie into the whole universe.
It's one of those ones where you feel like you're not on enough drugs to actually understand what's going on.
Kind of. Speaking of Justin Long, he just came out with a new film. I think it's on Amazon Prime, called The Wave. It's pretty much like he takes a drug and then he's on this drug the entire time.
Interesting.
And then he goes through a bunch of shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Justin Long still,
He's still kicking around. Well, he did Tusk.
which is great.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't Kevin Smith's most likable film,
I
but
mean, it's Kevin Smith
was-
trying to do something different.
it
So I
was
mean,
fucked
it
up.
wasn't received well because everyone was like, "Do more
It's not
pot
funny,
humor, more
right?
dick and fart jokes."
Yep. Stop.
Even though they were in there, like no one fucking got it.
And honestly, I thought it was a really well done
I did
film.
too. I thought it was
Have
good.
you seen Red State?
Red State's really good.
My God, the ending to that totally worth everything about it.
Did you know that he thought about actually filming the
angels coming down and shit?
he thought about filming the four horsemen in the
apocalypse
background.
actually coming.
Yeah.
Oh, he should have. But either way, the trumpets, all it needed was the horns being blown, and that was like, what the? Because everybody stopped in their place and went, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
And you're just like, "What is that?" And then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh," and it clicks, and I was like, "Oh, it's the Rapture."
Right.
Cool. Yep.
Red State's good. I like Tusk. I have yet to watch Yoga Hosers just because seems to me like it's not really worth it.
No.
I'm waiting to see because he's supposed to be working on Moose Jaws, which is supposed to cap his Great White North trilogy. So Moose Jaws is supposed to be about like a rabid moose or something like that.
So is that what is this? I
So
haven't heard about this.
Tusk, Yoga Hosers, and then Moose Jaws is the last one. It's supposed to be his Great White North trilogy.
That's right, because
They're all in Canada, like in
but
that's why it's a Great White
the
North trilogy.
girls are the gas station attendants in Tusk.
Yeah,
Yes, I forgot about that.
yeah.
Until you
His
just said
his
that.
daughter and Johnny Depp's daughter.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I didn't like the Hoser.
Yoga Hosers.
No, it was just ridiculous. But I like Tusk.
Yeah, Tusk I thought was great.
But it was also serious. It wasn't like the comedy that you would think it would.
Right.
It was a dark comedy.
Justin Long's character wasn't exactly serious, but like the movie itself was more serious.
Yes, it was a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Unlike Red State, which was
An actual horror movie,
or drama,
yeah,
whatever you want to call
thriller drama, whatever.
it. Yeah, still, and that was Red State. The ending of that just blew me away. Red State.
I thought John Goodman was great in that movie.
Yeah. I think it was also one of those films I hadn't really seen him take the leading role in for a long time. So,
well, I think he was kind of getting himself right. Because I mean, he dropped all that weight and so from what I understand, a lot of it has to do with the fact that he stopped drinking.
yeah, I was gonna say he was drinking a lot. So, I mean, yeah, I like John Goodman.
Oh yeah.
Although I was never a big Roseanne fan, but
Yeah.
wow. Should we start wrapping it up?
Yeah, I was gonna say we should probably
For 3 hours.
get this shit. Yeah.
Well, do we have anything last little bit to talk about, or if anything, any sorts?
Not offhand.
No. I think we should both watch that movie we were talking about with Seth Green.
Oh, Changeland?
Yeah, I think we should both watch
for
that
sure.
because it's the same thing. I keep seeing it, and I'm like, I've been interested. I'm like,
Like I say, I watched the trailer a couple times. Like, there's a part where Randy Orton, the wrestler's in it, and I was very confused. Like, I was like, "Why is he acting?" But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Like I say, it looks like an adult, like a more adult-oriented without a paddle.
yeah.
You don't have Dax Shepard or Matthew Lillard in there being weird.
I liked Without a Paddle.
Oh, I did too.
The first time I saw it.
It had some good writing. I mean,
The part I remember the most, and probably one of my favorite parts of that film, was Ethan Suplee when they're above, like they were all down in a hole and they're above and they're singing to him. It's like, "Do you really want to hurt me?" And then there's, "Yes, we really want to hurt you." And I think that's probably my.
I just remember. Well, I remember Dax Shepard. Them going, "Oh, weren't you a Boy Scout?" No, but I had a brownie once.
Right. I have a
hard
hard time
relationship with Dax Shepard.
I can't say love. I have an okay and hate relationship with Dax Shepard.
I see him in some stuff like Zathura, which was the quote unquote sequel to Jumanji, the original one. I thought he was great in that.
Yeah. But then again, he only had a small part. He was the astronaut, but like, well, I guess it wasn't small. He was in it.
I don't think it was that small part.
No, I guess
the dad had a small part.
It was a majority of the film.
Kristen Stewart before she really made it big.
I liked him, because in that movie he was good. I also liked his film Hit and Run.
See, I never finished that.
I didn't love it.
It looked good.
It was okay, but I didn't mind it because he also, I think he wrote it and directed it.
Did he? Okay.
And that's when him and
Kristen Bell.
Yep, became an item.
Yeah.
It just seems like such an odd relationship.
Yeah.
I also didn't mind Dax in not Modern Family.
Oh, Parenthood.
Parenthood. Yep. He's an annoying character, but I think he did a really excellent job for that character.
Yeah.
For being this self-centered, almost narcissistic kind of.
Yeah, he's the consummate guy that won't grow up.
Yeah,
is really the character he plays. Like he refuses to grow up. Like,
and he has all these responsibilities, like having a kid and having a relationship that he's supposed to be an adult with, and he just can't.
He's in his 30s, and like he just for some reason even when he opens the recording studio, like
he couldn't get his shit together enough to make that work. Yep, yeah. But I thought he did really well, did really well in that. I think the reason why I have a bitter, nasty taste is because he was on Punk'd, and I hate that show so much.
I forgot he was on Punk'd.
I fucking hate that show, yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not a huge Ashton Kutcher fan. Maybe a handful of things that he's done I've been okay with. Like, I like Dude, Where's My Car? I like that 70s show. Butterfly Effect was good. It wasn't too bad.
He's supposed to be good in Jobs.
See, I hadn't seen it.
Neither have I. He's supposed to be.
But I would rather watch Michael Fassbender, though.
Yeah.
Just because I think he's a better actor.
Boy, yeah.
He's got some true talent.
Right.
But anyways, I don't know. I think we should watch that movie, and we'll have to discuss it next time and see if we actually thought it was worth anything.
Yeah, most definitely.
I mean, we talked about my likes of the horror genre. So
we'll pick another genre for the next film talk.
Right.
Maybe we'll lay into comedy for a while.
So we can always try to do foreign films. How do you feel about your foreign films?
Not good.
Very limited.
It's very limited. I can tell you a couple movies I've watched that are foreign.
All right. Well, we'll skip that then.
I'm all for trying to broaden my horizons. Don't expect them to be broad to begin with.
Yeah, that's fair. Foreign films have always been a little tough for me to get into. It wasn't until I went to school that I was forced into it.
There's a few that I've seen here and there that I thought were really good. I got into martial arts films for a while, so I guess they're technically foreign films. But I always think of when you think of foreign films, you think of artsy French films or European films that have some sort of deeper meaning.
Well, those are the ones I'm talking about. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the ones where the guy kicks the other guy in the throat and says, "Get out of here."
Fu. No, I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think that's if it wasn't for school and learning how to analyze films, because that's what got me into the foreign films, is I had to watch a lot of fucking foreign films, and we had to sit there and analyze it. So to break those things down, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of watching and shit. So it's definitely not for everybody. So I won't do that to you. I might give you a couple that I think you might.
Well, yeah,
enjoy, but
like I say, we can talk about the ones we've seen for sure. I mean, I've got a handful that are just strange.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know. We'll see what we got going for next time we talk about movies. Other than that, we'll try to keep you posted if we can, I guess. Still working on trying to get an email, and then
we got the Facebook page set up, so go there if we need to. Maybe we'll start trying to announce what the new episodes will be about.
There you
kind of get geared up for them.
We're still trying to figure this shit out.
we're fumbling around. We work and we're parents, and this is kind of a new hobby, so bear with us.
But we'd like to continue this hobby,
right?
And we'd like to make it more than a hobby if possible.
Well, if I can make any money out of this, it'd be dope,
right? Hell yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. This is Timothy Bennett.
This is Aram Banyan.
And we'll catch you next time.
Later.
Peace.